Hello. Thank you for calling the Arkansas chapter of the Secret Society of Fly Tyers. This is not a free phone service and you are being charged $4 per minute. This call is being recorded and the resultant recording will be used against you in a court of law. Please listen carefully as our menu options have changed. For location and hours of operation information for the Arkansas chapter headquarters of the Secret Society of Fly Tyers, press 1. For general fly tying tips and tricks, press 2. For information relating to what really happened to President John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963 in Dallas, Texas, press 3. To hear the Secret Society of Fly Tyers pledge said in an Arkansas accent, press 4. To hear the sound of water, press 5. For fly fishing rules and regulations, please hang up and call the Department of Fish and Game and Bugs and Worms and Lizards. To donate $500 to the Secret Society of Fly Tyers, press any number or no numbers. To be connected with the host, please press 0.
Hello?
Are you talking to me? I said, are you talking to me?
Hey.
Are you talking to me? I think he is talking to you.
Yes, I'm talking to you. Through your headphones, or your car stereo, or computer. I don't care which device you use to let me invade your space. I'm just happy that you let me do it. And I'm here again to barf out a bunch of crud to filter like a fine sieve through Logic Pro and iMovie and Keynote until it slowly drips into the show that you love so much. That was gross, and I should have made it grosser and said drools instead of drips as a disgusting segue because on this episode of Secret Society of Fly Tyers, I had the pleasure of spending some time with the highly talented Drew Wilson. You may already know him through social media under his digital avatar, Drooler.
Your avatar would dissolve and disintegrate facing me on the battlefield. Dissolve your avatar so quickly.
He picked a semi-grody spin on his own name for us to remember him by, and it worked. He's a true creative force, always up to something. Check out his Instagram or his YouTube page or his web store if you don't believe me. Like myself, but light years ahead of me, he's carved out a fishy little niche for his weird art. A fish niche, some might say. One of his main outlets is tattooing fish on idiots like you and me. I haven't had the opportunity to make that happen yet, but it's on my short list of things to do, okay? I want to buy all of his goods and be a guest on his Fishing for Tattoos YouTube show, too. I think we have a few things in common. For starters, I'm going to assume he picked the name Drooler because he has a serious drooling problem like me. It's my wet cross to bear. And it feels comforting to know that I'm not alone.
Oh, stop it, Matt. We think your drooling problem is sexy, and makes you even more desirable.
Second, I also used to be a tattoo artist.
Oh baby.
At 14 years old or so, I fashioned a prison-style tattoo machine out of a Walkman motor, a mechanical pencil, a guitar string, and some India ink from my dad's calligraphy set. My little butthole logo-making brother and I, and our shitty friends, used that unsanitary torture device to give each other lots of bad tattoos of crass logos and black flag bars well before we knew what was good for us. We were always piercing or tattooing something or someone.
Oh my God, he's so goddamn cool!
Growing up on 5 acres without many close neighbor kids and no internet really made us fight to find any way we could to kill the boredom. The bad tattoos turned into even worse bad tattoo dares and then tattooing each other without ink at all. And even piercing each other without any jewelry. Just staring at each other, sweating, rolling a pair of dice that matched up with a list of body parts to see who would have a needle shoved through their nose or hand or lip or whatever. Kinda just poking new holes in each other because we could, and it was funny. Isn't that what everyone does in their formative years? I may have embellished parts of that story, but it's a cool picture to paint for you. This is my art, goddammit.
I like to paint crazy things.
Using your imagination is very fun because you get to create something that doesn't exist.
If I didn't have art, I would be very sad.
We didn't always do things that caused us severe physical pain, though. We would also raid the fridge and pantry to find weird things to blend up and make each other eat. The weirder, the better. My friend's dog Haas always wanted a sip, too, and he never felt good afterwards. We didn't either, but that just made it even funnier. There are only so many flavors available, though. Only so many sauces that you can mix together. Don't you want to try them all? I mean, what's the weirdest thing you've tasted? Let me know by using the hashtag weird flavors that I've tasted one time in my life. Let's get that trending, people. That was a test. I'll never ask you seriously to get things trending.
Wow,
you almost got me.
If I see that hashtag anywhere on my many feeds, I will ban you for failing the test. Feel free to leave a comment on one of my Instagram posts, though, that just lists the weird flavors you've tried without any context. That's more my style. You know, Drew doesn't have to try very hard to get his art trending. It's just cool, so people like it and share it and talk about it. I mean, just look at me. Or listen to me, I guess. I'm writing thousands of fucking words about him and his art and where he lives right now.
Whether you like it or not, I'm a content creator.
I Zoomed with Drew for over an hour to tell him how cool I think his art is and pick his brain about it. Have you made limited edition rugs with a giant trout on them? He has. What about beach towels? Belt buckles? Skateboard wheels? What about croc charms or blankets? I didn't even know a croc charm was a thing till I saw his. Drew has put fish on all of those items, sometimes even a fish with giant titties, or a fish smoking weed, or a fish being beamed up into a UFO. He keeps finding new ways to make weird anglers like us want to buy everything he sells. I was also pumped to talk to Drew because it gave me an excuse to write about spooky Arkansas lore and high strangeness. Maybe some fly fishing too. Drew and I barely talked about fly tying. Sometimes that's going to happen, which may not jive with the title of this show, but I don't care. That's my own way of throwing big titties on a largemouth bass and calling it art. I do what I want. I tell you that almost every episode. And I like other people that do what they want too. I want to talk about the fly tying and fishing stuff now, actually. Drew touched on it briefly during our interview, but lots of folks like to fish the White River and not just the locals. Anglers come from all over the world to attempt to fool the wide variety of trout in the White River into accepting their fly and achieving what I'm reading is called a White River trout slam. That includes a rainbow, a cutthroat, brown trout, and brook trout, all in one day of fishing by one angler. I love a slam. There's a whole bunch of other types of fish you could catch to add on to that trout slam too, like smallmouth, largemouth, and white bass, crappie, walleye, tiger muskie, some catfish, and more. That means after you complete the trout slam, you can get yourself a slam-a-dam or a slam-a-ding-dong dam too, if you're really good. Slam. Only truly elite anglers know about the slam levels above the ones I just mentioned.
I'm a global elite.
Oh, that's fine.
That shit is on a need-to-know basis, and most of us are just curious. We don't need to know, and they'll never tell us. Now, I could try to segue this into tinfoil hat land because that kind of language is just embedded in my brain from my relentless pro bono conspiracy research. But I will resist the urge to shoehorn in a joke about the well-known Arkansas politician's supposed death list and avoid bringing politics into this very, very dumb show. No way I'm getting into that. I just like calling them lizards. All of them. Due to the sheer number of different fish in the White River, many different fly patterns can be successful. Does that make you want to fill your box with an insane variety of different stuff so you're prepared for anything? Or do you take it the other way and narrow down your selections to just a few more generic patterns that are more multi-purpose? I'm reading that the trout there like caddis and BWOs in all the stages, sowbugs, scuds, baitfish streamers, and woolly buggers, amongst whatever else you might be confident in once you get there. Tie whatever the heck you want and stop listening to my stupid ass. I mean, I'm just reading things for you, so I guess you can trust me when I do that. I'll link to an article in the show notes to back me up, because I know I already lied earlier in this episode at least once.
You can tell us anything, Mark. We love every word you say.
The White River is 722 miles long, and a good chunk of those miles are in Arkansas. Find one of those miles without anyone else fishing in it and enjoy yourself. You deserve it. But be very careful not to be swallowed up by Whitey, the gigantic White River monster. Facts about the White River monster can be traced back to Native American folklore, with the first recorded sighting in 1915, followed by another report in 1924. The first national publicity about Whitey appeared in 1937 when farmer Bramblett Bateman, great name, reported to the media that he had watched a gigantic sea serpent-like beast frolic in the river near his home. Newsreel cameramen, reporters, and curiosity seekers lined the river downstream from Newport for weeks, hoping to get a glimpse of the gray, slimy beast. In addition to Bateman, 3 other local residents signed notarized affidavits in front of the city comptroller stating they had also seen the creature. Reports were slim for decades until 1972, when several people along the White between Jacksonport and Newport reported sighting strange objects in the river. One witness described seeing a creature, quote, as big as a boxcar and 30 feet long, gray all over, with fins, which is how I feel on some days.
Fishing stories are pervasive in Arkansas. We've all heard harrowing tales of hooking a monster, and every time the story's told, that fish seems to get bigger and meaner. When you're uncovering the oldest stories of a place, the lore of a place, it's a lot like having a monster fish on the end of your line. No matter how you try to control it, it's got a mind of its own.
The national media flooded into Newport's small community of 8,000. A Japanese filmmaker even had intentions of making a movie about it. Local merchants struck while the iron was hot by staging monster sidewalk sales, and a local restaurant even sold monster burgers.
Basically on their menu it says there is this thing called the Monster Burger.
Townsfolk waited in line for hours for their chance to taste the appetizing gray meat of the mythical sea monster. How was this restaurant getting so much of this monster meat, though? No one asked this question because they were starving and they were tired of a diet consisting only of hose water, boiled peanuts, and pickles. Folk singer Jimmy Driftwood even wrote a tune about the White River Serpent.
I dream of the rippling fountain at midnight wherever I roam. Someone on the top of the mountain is beckoning me to my home. The songbirds are gay in the wildwood that grows by the rocks and the rills in beautiful White River Valley in the shade of the Blue Mountain Hills.
I said earlier that I wasn't going to bring politics into this, but turns out that in order to ensure nothing tragic would happen to the monster, and maybe to protect the monster meat distributor that the local restaurants were using for their burgers, in 1973, Arkansas legislature passed a resolution declaring a section of the White River a refuge for the creature and banned anyone from molesting, killing, trampling, or harming Arkansas's proclaimed cousin to Scotland's Loch Ness Monster. Fun-killing skeptics claim this monster is just an ancient sturgeon or a manatee, but neither of those are as wide as a boxcar or 30 feet long. Do they think we're stupid?
No one thinks that about you, Maddie. Also, you are so handsome.
Another river that Drew mentioned was the Norfork, which is a confusing internet search, so maybe I am stupid. Is it the Norfork? Norfolk? North Fork? I guess its real name is the North Fork of the White River I spoke about before I got into that monster tangent, but it is far better known as the name given to it by the locals, which is the Norfork River. It gets water from the Norfork Dam, after all, and flows for almost 5 miles before it joins the White River. Fly anglers like it because the fish thrive in the limestone springs, desirable pH level, and fairly consistent water temperature between 48 and 58 degrees. I guess brown trout really like it because of a healthy population of crustaceans and other fish, because some proud angler roped in a 38-plus pound fish back in 1988. That means there has to be like a 150-pound brown trout in there right now, right? It sounds like trout from the White River seek refuge in the Norfork's cooler water during the hot days of summer. Wouldn't you? Those two rivers are really just scratching the surface of the huge amount of fishing opportunities out in Arkansas and the greater Russellville area. Go there. Go fishing. Drive 15 minutes down the highway and try to get to the bottom of the Dover Lights. Explore new places. But again, be careful, because the more I read, the more local monsters I'm finding out about. I should have asked Drew about the Goro or Goro?
I am Goro, General of the armies of Outworld and Prince of the subterranean realm of Shokan.
No, not like the 6-armed Mortal Kombat boss. This is a supposed wingless dragon reported to have 2 tusks coming out of its head and webbed feet and a spiky back. And I'd say this thing sounds like a pretty nerdy monster, but it also has a big old spear at the end of its tail to murder your livestock with. I'm reading on Arkansas.com that at one point, a Little Rock businessman formed a huge hunting crew who tracked the beast to a cave that was supposedly scattered with the remains of both animals and humans. The exciting tale ends with the Goro emerging from the lake and putting up a big fight before falling victim to the hunting party. The crew then claimed to have sent the body to Washington, D.C., to be put on display at the Smithsonian Institute. But just like all the bones of giants and proof of our hidden Tartarian history, the body never arrived, which leads many to believe that it was all a grand hoax. My guest, Drew Wilson, is not a hoaxer. He's an artist, and I had a swell time talking to him from his tattoo shop over Zoom and getting to know what makes him tick. I hope that you enjoy the chat that we had, which took me a long time to edit because I made a lot of mouth sounds that were bothering me, and I don't want them to bother you too.
But
strangely enough, I have a bunch of tattoos too. I'm starting to talk to guys that are just covered in tattoos in the fly fishing world, which I wasn't expecting. But it seems like that's the new thing. My new demo, my target.
It's
demo.
the new vest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's totally the new vest. It wasn't that. It wasn't that even until like 5 years ago.
Is that true? You think?
Yeah. Because when I first started gaining momentum for what I'm doing, I would say it was probably 8 years ago, maybe. And it was very uncommon to see someone heavily tattooed on the water. Yeah. And so there's a bunch of dudes who've been popping up in it. And then now also there are so many tattooers who are heavily involved.
I'm seeing that. Yeah.
It's kind of wild. I don't know, man. It's hard for me to process sometimes, because when I started doing what I do now, there was no demand, and it took a lot of work and a while for it to start catching on. And then it finally starts happening, and I start being able to tattoo fish and stuff like that a lot. Mm-hmm. I used to do I would be booked about 6 months in advance for tattoos, like just normal people tattoos, just like if you wanted angel wings on your back, like that kind of stuff. And I would get off work, I would tattoo all day. I would get off work, I would go to the gym, go get food, and then go back to the shop. And I'd get there at like 10:30 or 11, and I would paint until 2 or 3 a.m. And then I'd go home, go to sleep immediately, wake up at 9, go fish for an hour, and then go to the shop and start it over again. And so I was just painting and painting and painting, trying to put out fish tattoo flash so that people would get fishing tattoos eventually, hopefully, if I had enough shit to post. And then the next thing you know, it worked. I thought I'd be able to do one a week, maybe if I did enough art that eventually I'd be able to do one fishing tattoo a week if I was lucky. And then it got to where I was lucky if I did one normal tattoo a week, because everyone was asking for fishing stuff.
I didn't realize that's how extreme it's gotten. Really?
Yeah. Last year, so we lived on the road in 2021. We did a year in a travel trailer, and we didn't have a home. And in that year, I did 2 tattoos that weren't fish.
Wow.
And the year that we were on the road, which is awesome. I'm extremely thankful. I don't want to sound ungrateful for that. I'm thankful. I do miss doing wolf heads and tiger heads and stuff like that, because I like mean, energetic tattooing. But
you just got to work those things into the fish tattoos, man.
I'm getting there. I don't know if you've really kept up with the stuff that I've put out. You can look back 10 years ago to now, and you can see that it's gone from being pretty tame to getting pretty lewd.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that progression.
Yeah, with the amount of people who have stepped into the domain, and there's so many guys doing fishing tattoos who are just doing side profile rainbow trout every day.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's well, I don't want to try to fight them for it, because I don't really want to do that anymore. So it's well, I'm just going to put tits and a dick on it, or something like that. And I'll narrow down my demographic for sure, but I don't know. I was always a skateboarder, and I don't want to be competing to try to hold down something. I just want to take it in a different direction.
You find your real demographic. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the idea of success, though. Everybody thinks that everybody has a definition of success. Mm-hmm. Everybody has this preconceived notion of what it means to have made it. For some people, they think that selling what they make to everyone who will buy it is success. Like a Walmart mentality, where it's you got to sell to as many people as possible, and that's being successful. And then you get to that point where you're selling as much shit as you can make, and it's well, what do I want to do now? You know, what's the next definition of success? And so now I'm at a point where like, I just want to sell things I make without anyone asking me to make them to people that I'd want to hang out with.
Yeah.
And so making like lewd and goofy art has kind of honed that in to where I don't have a lot of people who are turds coming to sit in my chair. I have a lot of people that are rad, you know, guys that I would like, I'm excited to spend the time with and stuff like that.
Man, it sounds like exactly what I'm trying to do with the show. So I'm glad that you were down to talk to me, dude. And we kind of got into it before I was even able to introduce you or introduce myself. So I'm gonna do that real quick. But
oh yeah,
my name's Matt. People call me Marty. And Drew, you know, thanks for coming on the podcast. You know, it's a pleasure.
For having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet the man behind some of my my favorite fishing related art that's being made right now. And I'm gonna assume that most of the people who listen to my podcast are already familiar with you, whether they know your name or not. Especially especially with your "fuck around and find trout" slogan. I'm seeing that, like, you know, that's like caught steam there, and I'm excited.
Oh man, it's being made by other companies now.
I was gonna ask you, is that getting poached and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, it's happened. It's happened by 3 different companies. One that's bigger, and it's okay. I didn't copyright it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I doubt you have a copyright attorney watching your stuff, and you know.
Yeah, I don't care, you know, because if someone takes it and does it and makes it more prolific or has ownership of it through that, I can just make something else. You know, there's at the time that the time that someone first made a copy of that sticker where they made their own "fuck around and find trout" thing, I had 100 sticker designs available.
Yeah.
So it was like, that's just 1 in 99. But also, that's okay because theirs was boring, and they're boring.
Yeah.
And they don't really fuck around. And the trout they find are probably pretty easy to find.
There you go.
You know?
That's a good way to look at it, man. We talked a little bit before we were really rolling on this, but you're in Russellville, Arkansas, right?
I am. Yeah, this is where I call home now. We moved here in May of 2022, so we're coming up on a year almost.
Oh, cool. Fairly new. You're my first guest from Arkansas.
Yeah.
How did you end up out there? Like what's the road to Arkansas?
So I'm from Arkansas. I'm from Little Rock. I was born and raised in Central Arkansas, around it. My family moved a lot, so I lived in 20-something houses around Central Arkansas before I ever was an adult. You know, we moved so much. I moved out of state a handful of times as in my younger 20s, but I've mostly been in Arkansas. Russellville is new to me. My wife is from here, my soon-to-be wife. She's from here, and her dad is sick, and so we're here for that. But there's been a lot of good progression in that. So we thought it was going to be kind of a short-lived event, us living here, but now we're laying down roots because he's had some good health news, and so he's hanging in there pretty strong, and so we're here for a while.
Great.
So now I have this little tattoo shop, and
yeah. So you open up a shop out there, even. So I
just have a private studio. Yeah. I just have it's just me. But I am going to open, I think this winter, I think I'll open a real tattoo shop because I miss having people to work with.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's very important in a tattoo shop environment to have people there that you can talk shit to and stuff like that, who are your friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, people who listen to the same music as you, but bring different stuff to the table. And
yeah, you push each other a little bit.
You're supposed to push each other. And now also, I don't have a lot of bad clients. I have a lot of really cool clients because 99.9% everything I do is from Instagram. And so most people who come to my chair know who I am already and kind of know what they're getting into. So it's not that big of a deal to work by yourself because if you don't get stuck with turds, you know, it's not like there's some guy in my chair that I have nothing in common with because they're here to get fishing art.
I never really thought about that, getting tattooed. The other guys there in the shop with you, or girls in the shop, you know, are kind of a safety net there if you do get a turd.
Yeah,
never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, you can talk across your turd to someone across the room and still find joy in the situation. And when you get stuck with someone in a quiet situation who sucks, it's very odd because you're in their personal space. and you're hurting them and you're permanently changing something about their body. So there's a lot going on, and you can't even have a conversation with them, so it gets a little weird. Yeah. But luckily for me, Instagram puts people in my chair who are pretty cool.
That's cool.
And because I have a certain style of art that I do, I don't get a lot of people who are like, I want a very realistic side view rainbow trout, because I don't tattoo like that. I do like energetic, Japanese influenced traditional fish drawings. Mm-hmm. And usually goofy stuff. And so most of the people who come in here are like pretty cool. Even the people who I don't necessarily like aren't my type of people, we usually still have like a lot of common ground through fishing.
That's cool. I mean, as somebody who like goes to tattoo shops to get work done and doesn't have like artist friends, so it's always kind of a little weird trying a new shop out or something like that,
Yeah.
The vibe of the shop is so important, when it's like a welcoming place, or if you're just going to be like, all right, I got to do this and get out of here, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, there's supposed to be like an appeal to being in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where a tattoo shop's supposed to have a certain vibe that makes you happy to be a part of it. And you don't want to feel like I only got in here because I have money. You want to feel cool when you're in there.
Yeah.
It's an important thing to go somewhere and be able to leave and be like, not only am I really excited about my tattoo, but the experience really made it great. So there's supposed to be like a cost of entry as far as your commitment, rather than just you paying for it and then your idea being a good idea and the tattooer executing it well. It's supposed to be a lot more than just a transactional experience. And when you come to a place that it is purely transactional, it can feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a big life moment that you're participating in with the person. It's permanent.
Yeah,
right? And
it's supposed to be fun too. That's the thing. A lot of people forget that, like, while getting tattooed, it sucks. It hurts. Everyone who says that getting a tattoo isn't painful, they don't have enough. Like, get a bodysuit and then come talk to me about how it doesn't hurt. When you're in a shop, of course it hurts and it's expensive, but it's supposed to be, it's self-care, because you're treating yourself to something that's a luxury item.
Yeah.
And so it's supposed to be a fun experience. Like, it's supposed to be a thing that you leave and people are like, what did you do today? And you're like, I got tattooed. And they're like, oh, really? Where'd you go? Yeah. Or what'd you get? And it's supposed to be a story and something exciting, not just like, I paid some guy who I hated to draw something I don't like. It's supposed to be a joyous occasion.
You're like, yeah, I ruled. They played black metal the whole time, like blaring,
Yeah, see, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I want music in the background, and I don't want it to be like, I don't want to just listen to like boring stuff, but I want to be able to talk to my client, but I also want good music to be playing. I want an atmosphere.
Yeah. Well,
and it's hard. It's hard to cultivate that and curate it by yourself. People come in here and I'm like, this is my stuff. This is all I got. And if the song that's playing sucks, it's like, yeah, I put that on.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
It's supposed to be a melting pot. It's the same with like a fly shop or, anything like that. Like, you've been to shitty fly shops, and everyone has. Everyone's had a bad fly shop experience or a bad guide experience. And it's very similar because guide trips are very expensive, like.
Yeah, it is a good parallel in a way. Yeah.
Most of I have a lot of guide clients, and I'm not roasting those guys by any means. Paying $500 for a day of fishing is something that is limited to a certain demographic of people.
Yeah.
And when you work for $12 an hour, 40 hours a week, after taxes, your take home is like $550 if you're lucky. To be able to like have to give that money to a person for one day of fishing is a big deal. It's a big sacrifice for some people. And when they have a bad guide experience, it's the worst. But when they have a good guide experience, it makes them more passionate about fishing.
Yeah.
And I feel like when those people are sacrificing for you, you got to show them a good time. And I know that you can't always plan to catch fish because it is fishing, but I think it's very similar to tattooing, where you're selling an experience and you got to be you just have to be nice.
Yeah, that's true. Man, you talk about it hurting, and you I don't know if do you have a full bodysuit? Because I saw on one of your fishing fur tattoos you got one on your hip, I want to say, and it looked like you were pretty covered.
Yeah, I've got some spots left. My left armpit's open, and then
you see saving that one for something special.
It's such a difficult thing to heal.
Yeah,
because you can't comfortably put your arm down, and you have hair growing on both sides of your armpit that when your arm's down, it's like poking.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm waiting for someone who's very fast who wants to tattoo an armpit. But I've got an armpit. I've got like the bottom of one of my butt cheeks, one of my very inner thighs, and then I've got a foot left, and then some little gaps.
Bunch of nice tender spots.
Yeah, it's all down to the worst stuff. Yeah. But mostly, I would say I'm like probably more than 70% there to being done.
Wow.
And I'm not going to do my neck, and I include my neck in that 30%, but my scalp's already done. And then I've got,
really?
I've already got all my torso other than that armpit. So I'm getting there.
You can cover up your scalp. You're going to keep the neck clear though.
Yeah. Well, it's all under a hat. I wear my hats high up like this. I always have, cause I got a giant head. And
I do too.
Big brain, But so I put a hat on like this, and we basically traced it with a Sharpie and then tattooed everything under it. So
wow. Yeah.
It's all under there.
God, that must have been brutal as all hell.
It was rough. It was an 8-hour sit. It was I vomited at one point.
Oh.
And then I had to get up to shit twice because I gotta poop, I need to go to the bathroom, but I'm gonna shit my pants, I have to run now.
Like pain from nausea or Taco Bell or something.
It's crazy because the first few hours were really pretty easy, and then it was like as soon as the hair started to kind of grow in to where the paper towels were catching on it, it just got so tender. But I didn't want to have to do it again.
From getting rubbed on a ton.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I never even thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because your stubble grows back, your hair on your head grows so fast that I went to a barber and had it straight razored first, and then I went in and we get the stencil on there and then draw the background on. Or no, we just did the stencil because it's big osprey holding a brown trout.
Oh wow.
We outlined it.
Right.
I was like, let's go ahead and fill it in, and then we drew on background. And so we just it was 8 hours. I was at the shop for 8 hours, and it was about hour 6 that I started getting pretty ill feeling, but I didn't want to have to deal with shaving my head again. I mean, I keep my head shaved, but not straight razored. I just didn't want to have to deal with any of it. So I was like, let's just get it all over with so I don't have to do this anymore. Yeah. But now I think I'm going to add on to it because now I've actually lost my hair enough to where I keep my head shaved.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, I might as well just bring this down more. I don't know. I'm just going to go for it.
Bring it down right to the tops of your eyebrows.
yeah, just to the tops. I wouldn't have to worry about people low-holing me anymore. They'd just take one look at me and be like, no, we're not going to do that. This guy looks like a lunatic. Let's not go down there.
Dude, what is it about getting older? I don't know how old you are. I'm 42. They hurt more and more the older I get.
So I'm 35. Yeah. And they do hurt more the older I get, but it's also, I don't have any easy spots left.
Well,
that's one of the things where it's like my arms and legs have been full for so long that now when I get tattooed, I've only been tattooed that fishing for tattoos video you said you saw. That's the only tattoo I've gotten in the last 2.5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't have a lot of space left, and I want to save it for people who I really admire. And so I'm pretty limited. Like there's a guy I want to get something from who lives in Germany, and I want to save some, one of my bigger spots for him, but I'm not making it a priority to go there.
You're like, I saved the bottom of my left butt cheek for you.
Yeah, totally. That is probably what I'm going to have him do too. It's funny because 2 of my favorite artists did both my butt cheeks.
Yeah.
And they're both really sought after, old timers who've been tattooing for 30 plus years each, but I just didn't have any big space left. So my butt tattoos are my nicer and more prestigious tattoos where you can be like, oh yeah, I got something from that guy. And they're like, oh yeah, what? You got to show them your ass.
Hell yeah.
I have a redfish tail on one butt cheek. And then I have a tiger trout that has a tiger head as the trout head. on the other butt cheek.
That's cool.
And I have the bottom under the redfish tail those open, and so save that for the German guy.
Yeah. Do you even know how many fish tattoos you have at this point? I mean, you're covered.
That I have?
Yeah.
I don't know what
fishing related, you know?
I don't know what to count as one.
Yeah, you're pretty much covered there. Yeah.
Well, it's like I've got 4 knuckles of flies there, and then I've got a hook on this one. So, and then I've got a bass and a rooster tail here that were separate. So on my hands, there's 7.
Yeah, wow.
And there's a net, so there's 8 just on my hands. And yeah, and then I've just, anytime I have a little space, I'll just be like, I can fit a little fly in there or something like that. Yeah. Probably 30, I would guess, maybe more. You know, I don't know, because like the osprey is holding a brown trout. And then I'm a big osprey fan, so I have 2 osprey tattoos.
Man, I'm a big bird
and they're
guy
fish
too.
pots, so they count, right? They're fishing tattoos because it's an osprey.
For sure. I keep it's weird. Like whenever I want a tattoo, it ends up being a bird tattoo. I got a bunch of birds too.
Birds make good art.
Yeah, they do for sure.
Yeah, I think birds are pretty sweet, and they can look mean, you know. And I don't know. I think you can show a wide variety of range too in the way that you draw them.
Yeah,
so I'm about it.
Big bright colors or or black and white too. Looks good.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna make. I don't want to talk about it too much, but I want to talk about it a little bit because of what you just said.
Isn't your cosmic angler a big heron too?
It is. Yeah. I think I'm making a skateboard company, maybe.
No way.
And I think I'm gonna kind of wrap it up around birds, and I think my first board is going to be a big blue heron.
Oh, that's rad. We got a bunch out here where I live. I'm kind of a amateur bird watcher. So yeah, I'm always looking at that stuff. Did this sprout up because of the wheels you made? I mean, I saw you made skateboard wheels. That just kind of spiral out of control, or what?
Well, so I did some boards a little over a year ago.
Oh yeah, I have seen those. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it was the Hot Stuff Devil riding the rainbow trout, says Born to Raise Hell. That design just got bit pretty hard, which is a bummer because now someone else has got it. But that's okay. I didn't invent Hot Stuff Devils, so I can't have ownership. But I made those boards. I did those wheels recently. But what motivated the skateboard company idea is that I'm trying to like feed the skate scene here in this town that I live in. And so I'll go to the skate park sometimes, and I buy online from like during like Black Friday sales. I went to some skateboard suppliers and just bought everything that they had on clearance.
Just a bunch of blanks and stuff, or what?
Oh, dude, everything. Like I bought like 50 sets of wheels, not just the ones I made, but wheels that were like, you know, have a pro skateboarder's name on them, because pro skaters do get money from like their suppliers selling their name on stuff. And so even if it's on sale from the company, they still get paid. So I bought like a bunch of like pro labeled bearings, pro wheels, and all this stuff. And I just take it to the skate park and I use it to bribe children to do tricks. And I had a day recently, and I don't make them do anything they're going to get hurt, where it's like, if I just see a kid trying to do a trick and he's like, keeps stepping off his board, or he's like being wimpy about it, I'll be like, do it right now, and I'll give you some new wheels, you know, this try.
Motivation. That's good. Yeah.
And so I had a day where I had like every kid at the park. There were like 7 or 8 kids there, and everyone got something. And I motivated all these kids to try something they were uncomfortable trying, and they all rolled away and no one got hurt. And it was just such a cool day. And I left feeling so high on skateboarding that I went home. And I should note that I don't sleep much. I sleep like between 4 to 5 hours a night on average. So I sleep from like 3 to 8. I went home and I just sat down and started drawing, and all I wanted to draw was skateboard stuff. And the next thing I know, it's like 5 a.m, and I've designed 2 boards, a bearing box, like for bearings, bearing casings, hardware, a sticker design for the hardware. I mean, I just designed a whole line of like skateboard stuff.
You're putting a brand together. Yeah.
And I didn't have that intention. I was just like, oh, that'd be cool. I'll draw that. Oh, that'd be cool. I'll draw that. And the next thing, it's 5 a.m. and I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. I need to go to sleep. It's too late. And so I go lay down, and I'm laying in bed, and I couldn't turn my brain off. I have like this crazy manic brain sometimes. And I was just laying there, and then the name of the company just kind of clicked into my head. and I grabbed my phone, and it was like 6:30, like the sun was coming up, and I grabbed my phone and just typed in the name to see if it was taken, and it wasn't. And I can't say it yet because I haven't got it licensed.
Yeah.
But
this probably won't come out till June-ish, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Probably. But even
I
then,
don't know. I'm such a procrastinator. I'll have all the products by then and probably not have done any paperwork yet. But
well, if you do, I'll push it in the show notes if
cool. Yeah. So it'll be. I'm hoping to launch it, I think, this summer, which is funny because I do fish art. I draw fish art. You wouldn't think there's a lot of crossover there. There's some like really surprising amount of crossover between skateboarding and fly fishing.
I just watched your episode 5 with what's his
David Gravett.
Yeah, David Gravett.
Yeah. He's he's a pro skateboarder. I've watched videos of that guy for, I would say, 17 years. Since I worked in a skate shop when his first video came out when I was 18. We played it in the shop, and he did
King of the Road too, didn't he?
Yeah, he's the dude who always does the most ridiculous stuff on King of the Road. Before Viceland got it, when it was just Thrasher, but now that Vice has it, it's become such a huge thing. So Dave he was in the most recent Jackass movie. He's just like he's a real Renaissance man, he kind of does it all. And so I just reached out to him because we'd become like internet buds because he was fishing and he gets tattooed. And I reached out to him and I was like, do you want to do this YouTube video thing I'm doing? And he was down, and we booked it for the summer. He was supposed to come here in July, and I went and worked at ICAST in Florida. And on the way back, he was flying in like 4 days later, and I got COVID at the airport. Shit. And so I had to cancel his flight. I found out I had COVID at like midnight the night before, and he was flying out at 6 a.m.
Oh, man.
So we were on the phone with each other. I was like, I'll wear a mask, dude. You wear a mask. You drive the truck. I'll ride in the bed of the truck, whatever. I didn't want to cancel because I was like so excited because I've watched this dude skate my whole adult life, and he seems like such a cool guy. And so I was really excited about it. And then I woke up 4 hours later feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, and we had to cancel his flight. And luckily they gave us a flight credit, and we ended up using that to get him to Florida to do the video that we did.
Cool.
And I'm thankful we did that because it ended up being like a very cool experience.
Man, that trip was epic. I have some questions about it because, not only were you guys all busted up, he was busted up, you're busted up, and was the other guy Sam was on the boat with you?
Dude, Sam has a very long issue running with a pinched nerve in his back. Okay. And so he went the day David was flying in, Sam went and got steroid shots so that he would be able to fish the whole time. And my wrist was broken. It's still messed up. Let me see if I can do it. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Nope. Good. Cool. Usually I can just squeeze it here, and you can watch my entire wrist pop back in because I did not go to the hospital. And I've got something like a ligament that's disconnected right now. And I'm just going to wait because I don't currently have health insurance. And I'm just going to wait until it's just broken enough for me to feel like I need to go to the hospital.
It's not affecting your grip on a tattoo machine?
No. It only affects my grip when I wipe my ass.
It's the most important
thing. I can tattoo, I can do whatever, but I can do pull-ups still. But whenever I go to wipe my ass, it's something about that angle.
No, it's that grip.
It's the only thing that my wrist hurts during.
Oh, man.
It's like, well, shit happens. You got to do it. But
dude,
what can you do?
That episode, you guys were just roping in big redfish, like two at a time, two in the net at a time. And I was wondering, I haven't done that fishing, really want to. But I was wondering, you guys mentioned sharks a couple times in that episode. David joked about losing his arm, releasing a fish to a bull shark, and then you sounded like you guys saw one, but it never came on video as far as
I was filming with a GoPro, and myself and then Sam held a camera for me for a minute. Sam's so damn sweet. So we have, it's a terrible camera for filming things at a distance.
Yeah.
And that water, it was windy, But we had a shark, a pretty good sized shark.
It looked pretty murky too, like not a whole lot of visibility.
Yeah, we had a good sized shark though swipe at a fish at the boat, and that's the one that Dave was letting go where he's talking about it. It just, you couldn't see it on camera. I'd kind of hoped you could because it was a good sized shark. But it was cool because the fish didn't get eaten. And that's the worry, is they call it, paying the tax man when a shark gets your fish. And I was pretty concerned about that because I like those fish a lot and I want to treat them well. And they're nice enough to eat so aggressively and to let us catch them. And I don't want to be responsible for one getting bit in half.
Yeah.
They can go get bit in half on their own. That's their own business. But I don't want to be involved in it, But I mean, we got really lucky. That trip, we were there for, I think, 4 or 5 days. And I filmed one evening and then I filmed one afternoon.
Oh, wow.
And that was it.
You guys got tons of great footage too. Like just huge fish and cool doubles, like just all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah.
So that area is incredible for fly fishing because it has everything. So there's a lot that I did not film on that trip because we were kind of focused on redfish. Like that's what it really leaned itself towards. But we got a bunch of we caught micro tarpon. Oh, cool. And then there's actually a striper run down there.
Oh,
and
we got those out here. Yeah. I'm in
where
California.
Are you?
Northern California.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sacramento River and all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
So there's a striper run of ocean run striper in Alabama, and it's the only one on the southern coast.
Okay. And
they just push into the rivers. So you don't actually catch them in the salt, but they'll swim into the rivers. And so we would go striper fishing at night too on dock lights. And so we had a huge variety, but you can't film at night with a GoPro really well. Yeah. The footage I did take at night, the only reason I used it is because it was fresh off the plane. It was I picked him up at the airport. I also took a really bad fall skateboarding in Mobile, Alabama, 45 minutes before I had to go to the airport.
Of course.
And so I was skating a ramp, a private ramp with some guys I know down there. And I fell from the top of the coping and my board slid down under me and I landed on it. So it was under my shoulders and my neck went back so hard. Usually when people fall in a good session where everyone's really excited, everyone will kind of cheer, yeah, get up, And I fell so bad that it was dead silent.
Everybody's all worried. Yeah.
It was one of those things where I was he broke his neck. And I thought
I broke my neck.
Well, I felt it pop.
Yeah.
And I felt if you've been to a chiropractor and they pop your neck and it's there's sometimes you have a chiropractor visit that goes smoothly, and sometimes you have one where the pop is very aggressive.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
It was like that. And I landed, I was I have to get up. I can't, it would figure that I would die like this,
Yeah.
And so I stood up and I was thinking, just walk it off. And I get up and I'm walking. I was I'm going to try to keep skating. I'm just going to try to keep moving because, an object in motion stays in motion. And I'm just going to try. And if I don't think I broke my neck and I get up and I start skating, I was I feel good.
Oh, no way.
I feel better than before. I haven't felt this good all year.
Yeah. Wow.
And the next day I was sore, but that fall, something about it worked okay.
Wow.
I went to pick Dave up and we got right on the water. And within probably 45 minutes of him stepping foot off a plane, he caught a 20+ pound red.
Yeah. You mentioned, how it was tough to film and stuff. The way that you edited that together though tells the story really well. You still it's still engaging enough where you almost feel like you're out there because it's real dark and just like it is if you're out fishing at night and everybody's chatting and talking and you can hear what's going on, and then big fish under the light all of a sudden kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Rad, yeah.
Thank you, man. So editing is the hardest thing that I do.
Same here, dude.
It's so hard. And I have 3 Fishing for Tattoos episodes filmed right now. I have one filmed with Sam from June or July. He came here to Arkansas. He was the first tattoo in my shop. And we went and we filmed for 5 days. And that was a mistake because now I have to go through 5 days of footage to tell this story. And it's so much. And if you just take 2 days or 2 outings, it can work. But if you string it out over all these days, it makes it really difficult to try to like tell the story as cleanly as possible without doing a bunch of voiceover. And I hate doing voiceover. But I have one filmed with Sam. I have one filmed that I filmed with my sister an entire year ago. And my sister's a really, really larger than life person. And she's like a very big YouTuber. And so I know whenever I post it, that it's just going to get a crazy amount of views because she'll share it.
Sweet.
And that puts this immense amount of pressure on it being good. So I filmed this thing and tattooed her a year ago, and I still haven't edited it.
Oh, man.
So the David thing, saying that was like tells the story well, is such a compliment to me, because I stress about that so much. I would rather do anything than edit a video, but I can't have anyone else do it because they don't know how I want the story told yet. Once I have probably 12 to 15 episodes together, then I can take those as samples and be like, this is the footage we shot. I want it edited like this. Tell me when you get it pieced together and I'll come do the voiceover. And until then, it's just up to me. And I'm so bad at just making the time. I'm going to edit a video tomorrow. I'm going to like set aside probably 6 hours tomorrow to sit down and edit one. Hopefully.
Dude,
we'll see.
The editing for this podcast, I had no idea what I was getting into as far as the work that I was going to have to put in to do a show. And like, so I do the same kind of thing. It's like I'll stack up like interviews, right? And then I'll go and work on them, edit them, make the episode and stuff. And once I have the interview, it almost seems like a pile of work, right? That's sitting there. So then I start procrastinating on it and come up with reasons not to do it and pushing shit along. And,
it's funny for me because the whole series is I'm basically guiding someone into a fish most of the time. Sometimes I'm just there with them, but essentially I'm guiding someone to fishing, and then I have to tattoo them also. And I'm filming all of it mostly myself. I did have a guy help me with one recently, and he's going to help me out from now on, hopefully.
Cool.
This guy, Chandler Hyatt, who's also like he does a lot of fish art, and he's like a little more along the lines of like steampunk fine art. So he's doing some really cool stuff. And he's just a local kid who reached out and said, if I ever need help.
Cool. Yeah,
and I did. But I'm doing all of this myself. And so I'll take a whole day or two and drive over. It's 2.5 hours to the river I fish usually. I'm rowing a boat all day, and then I'm tattooing. And I don't charge people for this stuff. I want it to be a cool experience for them. I don't just want it to be about me. And so I want them to get something out of it. And I want them to have a tattoo that when people ask them about, they're going to have a really elaborate story.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. It's a cool thing. And so I'll do all that, and I'll do all the work, and then I'll get home. And if I don't edit it immediately, it becomes this looming
I know
project.
Exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, man.
But once I get going, I love it. Like I enjoy editing videos. It's just about making the time. I also can't do anything else when I'm editing. I'm just sitting in a dark area with headphones on, and I can't have any noise because I need to pay attention to the sound of each clip. And so with that, it's very difficult for me to just set aside the time.
It's just the punk in us that goes, don't tell me what to do. Like I want to do
it. Yeah.
I want to do it. I want to do it.
Well, my wife, we're soon to be wife. I love calling her my wife. We've been together 9 years. I'm just starting to call her my wife though, because we're getting married in a few weeks. But she doesn't have a lot of respect for personal space. And so I'll set aside time and be like, okay, I'm going to go edit this video. And then she's downstairs. We live in a big warehouse, like garage thing. So my loft, that's like my business area, is exposed. And she'll be downstairs and she'll do things like turn on trash TV, like her whatever shitty show she's watching, or she'll come up there and start cleaning near me. And I just want to like go to your room. I'm trying to work on this. So I have to edit videos either when she's not there or when she's asleep, because that's my productive time. So it's a very difficult thing for me. But hopefully in the next few months, I'll have enough episodes to have kind of as templates that I can just show someone and be like, this is what we're going to do this time. Hopefully, because I would love to have help with it so that I could just focus on planning cooler things for the people involved.
Yeah, man, it's such a cool concept. Like I'm not just pulling your chain there. Like as soon as I saw it, I was pumped. I was like, oh, this is a great idea. You're out on some kind of bounty mission, like to get somebody a new tattoo, and the story behind the tattoo is super cool in that sense. One of my favorites was your buddy that got his first Marlin. And you got
Jeremy,
the big Marlin tattoo on him. Which was that his first tattoo?
No, but it's really funny.
That's a big
Jeremy's like
tender spot for a tattoo.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't want a big tattoo.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know this. Like there was Jeremy's a friend of mine. He's who I stay with when I go to Mountain Home. And I was a little hesitant about doing that because I want to be involved with them as well. And I didn't go on that Mexico trip, but he had a photographer from the guide he was fishing with, who's like his friend down there, because he hosts these trips through these people, I believe. And the photographer sent me the footage, which was so nice of him. I think I gave him like $100 for filming. They were using that footage for other stuff, but I gave him $100 to send me an unedited clip of it so I could use that. But I was a little hesitant because I wasn't involved, but Jeremy's one of my good friends and he wanted to get tattooed anyway. I met him through Instagram years ago, and I was just traveling and put up that we were going to be in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and asked, where should I fish and where should I eat? And a bunch of people messaged me, and he's one of the people. And we just met up on the river, and we've been friends since. He ended up moving to Arkansas.
Oh, cool.
So he showed up to get that tattoo, and I think he's got a couple up on his arms, but they're small. And I draw everything on with a Sharpie. I don't
do all of them. I've seen you do that. I didn't know that's kind of your thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say 90% of what I do that. I like it. It fits the area. It guarantees the person's going to get a 100% original tattoo. It works really well for the videos too, because I want people to see that. Like I do fish art, and a lot of people who will view that as like a gimmick. And I don't want them to forget that I'm a real tattooer and that I can draw. And so you see it a lot, particularly in fishing tattooing, now that it's popping up. You see a lot of the same people kind of doing the same thing over and over again.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I want to push myself to draw better. And so drawing on the skin is helpful for me because I can draw the waves to fit. I can draw the fish to fit their anatomy. And I'm never going to put it on paper and then go to stencil it and be like, this doesn't really look good with this.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so I try to involve that as much as I can. But I drew that thing, and he's a big dude. Jeremy's he's my height, I think, and he's a husky guy. So he's not a little bitty dude. And that tattoo is probably, I would say, 13 inches long, maybe 14 inches long.
The whole front of his thigh, basically, right?
Yeah, it wraps around his knee up. Man, he just didn't want such a big tattoo, but he
got one. Yeah.
He caught a marlin. He caught 180 plus pound marlin on a striped marlin on a fly rod. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's a silly small tattoo.
Yeah, you don't get a little peanut to memorialize that. You get the elephant. You get the whole elephant. And so he's also my friend. I did worry a little bit afterwards. I never worry that I peer pressure anyone. I never worry about that as far as tattooing goes, because most people who come to me, if they have a bad idea and I coach them in the direction of a good idea, or like, oh, well, we can make it do this and it'll work better, I am always pushing them towards a better tattoo. But for Jeremy, he's my friend. He's not super tattooed. And at the end of that, I worried for my first time in years. I worried, did I just pressure him into getting a tattoo that he doesn't like for a video? Because when you put that camera on someone, it's a different thing where it's like, okay, well, you're part of something that's more than just your tattoo. Your tattoo's just involved in it. It stressed me out afterwards. I went over and visited him just a few weeks ago, and I was kind of like trying to feel it out. We had to go film the intro to it after he'd gotten tattooed and everything. We were standing at that bridge, and I went over to film that. And I was kind of trying to feel him out to be like making sure he liked it. But I also understand that a tattoo after you have it for a while is just part of your skin. And it's not like you wake up every day and lay in bed and look at it and think about what it means to you. And everyone who ever sees Jeremy in shorts is going to know that he caught a big fucking marlin. And that's cool. And I'd rather him have that than a dinky thing. And so it is, whether it's what he wanted or not, there is no way that he's not going to be able to like see it as a prideful thing. Plus, having big tattoos is like a power move, So
that's a
good
big
for
tattoo.
him there.
One of the smaller ones was another favorite of mine too, though, is the Better Luck Next Time. It's a great tattoo too,
Man, that guy Sean, I'd never met him, I just pulled him off the internet. I put it was a little slow burning in the beginning of that one because I'd made a reel on Instagram to like find someone.
I remember seeing that reel and thought of that's a bold move. Like you don't.
Well, I wanted to include that. I wanted to include it because I wanted people to know, like, this is entirely done this way. I didn't want it to seem insincere. And everything that I do, it being sincere is key. And so I don't want to do some like. It's why I'm doing it so lowbrow, because I don't want it to get to a point where like we're casting at cameras from across the river, or like I don't want it to be hokey. I would rather film it with a GoPro and it just looked like a dad filmed it, than really overly set up, because I want it to be pure. That guy Sean got on my boat and it was the worst day of fishing we could have had. People were low holing us. People were motoring around us to get below us, backing into the wall, floating 100 yards below us without ever making a cast, and then motoring off.
What?
Like, essentially just ruining a quarter-mile of river for us for no reason. There was like 150 boats on the water. It was just a weekend. That's all. It was a weekend on the White River. It was a beautiful day, and they were supposed to run big water, and they never turned it on. And Sean's not a fly fisherman. He knows how to fly fish, but he's a spin fisherman who fishes smallmouth. And he was really excited because, we talked a bit about it, and he was so excited because he just wants to learn how to fly fish. And he was like, this is going to be the thing for me. And he was I think he was kind of expecting to get out there and catch the fish and get a big brown trout tattooed on him and just having this point of pride. He is such a kind-hearted person. I thought about him today, because I met him through that and I tattooed him afterwards. We've talked a bit since then, and he's just so kind. And I thought about him today. I want to be his friend. Like when you meet someone that you're like, I really want to be their friend, like that's someone who would be a valuable person to have as a friend because they are so pure. He's just a family man. It's strange that in my adult life, in my 30s, since I've been I've been with Katie for 9 years, but since we've been together and I've like more and more narrowed my focus on my career and pushing what I'm doing, I quit caring about a lot of the other stuff that I cared about when I was a kid. And so I don't really want to have like party friends. And I don't want to have friends that when we go on fishing trips, they're like looking at Tinder and stuff like that, seeing what women are there. I want to go on trips with friends who like have families that they love. And when they're getting away, they might want to have drinks or something, but they're there to fish.
Yeah.
And he fished all day. He never sat down. People were catching fish too that weren't on our boat who would low hold us. People would motor around us and get below us and catch the fish we were there to fish. We watched 2 fish over 20 inches get netted. I even pulled over and took a fucking picture for a guy who he had parked his boat and we were coming down in a back area that you can't get through to in like a motorboat like they do on the White River. Everyone has these big skiffs with jets. And I have this little lightweight drift boat with no motor. So we can go in this little back channel. This dude parks his boat, sees us coming in the back channel and runs. Like literally he like runs up to the spot, makes one cast and catches like a 7-pound rainbow.
Oh, wow.
As we're coming down into the spot. Then he ran up.
Literally weaseled right in. Yeah.
And we're sitting there. I can't blame him, because if I was walking up to a spot and I just parked my boat and I saw some guys coming, I knew where I was going, I might want to try to hurry up and get there before they come through too. So I don't blame him. I don't. So if that guy's listening, if you had someone pull over and take a picture for you, because I pulled over. I was like, do you want a photo? Because it was a great fish he caught. And so I pulled the boat over and took a picture for the guy of him holding his fish. And
what a guy.
Well, and it's just poor Sean, who needs to catch that fish so he doesn't have to get this losing tattoo, is just sitting in the boat while I'm taking this picture. You know?
Did you let the guy know? Be like, that's our game show fish that you got right there.
Yeah. But I also don't ever want, I don't want to feel entitled on the river, because if you're out there trying to film a video on a public piece of water, you have less rights to it than the guy who's out there just fishing. You know what I mean?
I get you.
Because essentially I'm trying to do a thing that I'm going to put on the internet and that will be monetized and things like that. And I'm exploiting a natural resource for entertainment, and this guy's enjoying a natural resource for peace of mind. So he deserves it more than I do. And I understand that, but I did want Sean to have a great experience. I wanted him to leave the river feeling like he learned a lot. His cast got way better. He learned a lot about fishing, and he sends me video or pictures now of him with trout. So he's out catching trout on his own with some of the stuff he learned.
Nice.
And the next day, because our fishing day was so bad, I was like, dude, let's stay the night. I'll get us a hotel again, and we'll fish tomorrow on the North Fork on a Sunday, so it'll be less crowded. And we did, and we hammered fish. I had a camera guy for that one, Chandler. And on Sunday, I told Chandler to put his camera down. I was like, dude, we're not filming today. We'll bring it with us just in case, anything cool happens. But I just want you to fish. And Chandler caught a 21-inch rainbow in the first 30 minutes of the day.
Hell yeah.
He hooked 2 really good fish. He hooked a mega brown too. He hooked a brown that would have been over 2 foot. It would probably have been 28 inches. And he broke it off.
I mean, they know that you're not going to take their picture today, or it's just it's like hunting turkeys or something. They know they're there every day until you show up with a shotgun, right?
Yeah, that's totally it. I always make the joke that because when you're not paying attention is when you get a grab. I always make the joke that I'm going to turn my hat sideways, because I feel like the fish watch the brim of your hat. They're like, oh, he's not looking, let's eat it.
No, I do that. And I'll pretend to I'm going to reach for my phone, thinking they'll
Yeah. You're looking through your screen, you're watching your phone on camera, so you can still see your fly. They don't know that I'm doing this. They think I'm just looking at my phone.
It's so stupidly true, dude. As soon as you take your phone out to check your text you just got, that's when you miss someone. That's when you miss one. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It really makes you think though that when you're not paying attention is when you get your grab. Maybe there's something that's happening because you're not paying attention. It's oh, I'm not doing this mend, or I'm not doing this that I would have done. Instead, I'm doing something that's technically wrong and it's working. So maybe my fly got a little drag and it worked. Maybe it looked like that hopper was trying to skid across the water.
Skidded right to the right. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You just never know. But we went out the next day and hammered fish, and he got to have a really good day. But the deal on the reel that I posted was that you would get 1 day of fishing, not 2. And so the first day sealed the deal. And so he had to get that tattoo. But I will take Sean again, and I will film another video with him, because he is hungry. When you meet a fisherman and an angler who's just hungry, you know what I mean? And they just have drive and passion, and they're you can just tell that they just want it, and they're not just out there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give Sean, he'll be the first person who I do it with. I'm going to give him a redemption one in the summertime during hopper season. And I'm going to put him on a good fish, and we're going to have to film it on weekdays, so there's not a huge crowd. I did the hopper one
episode.
Yeah, because he was supposed to catch a 19-inch trout. That's not hard, on our rivers. That's not hard. And if the conditions are right, I can almost guarantee 5 of them in a day. And so having a day like that, we were supposed to get the right conditions and it didn't happen. They never ran the water from the dam. I had a level of embarrassment because he did well. He fished hard. His cast like wasn't quite what I needed it to be, but it sharpened up as the day went on. At one point, we were 10 miles into the day, and I told Chandler not to film for a minute. I was like, I just want to try something to see if we can finagle fish this way. And I made like 3 casts, and I caught like a 17-inch brown.
Oh, yeah.
But it involved a very far, I was fishing a streamer, but the water was so low. So it's like involving an 80-foot cast, like you're casting to your backing. And I can't ask someone who's a new angler to do a hero cast like that. I don't even like casting like that myself. It's stupid.
Big double haul. Yeah, big.
Oh, haul. Like, yeah, just the super haul where you're just trying to put it out as far as you can and then get it back in at this certain cadence that's a really hard. We're fishing with jig flies, and I like a 2 to 4 inch strip so that your fly toggles in the water. And I don't want like a consistent strip and dive that people do with jig flies. I want it to dance like a wounded minnow. And so doing that is really difficult because it's these super fast short strips. If I fish that way for 2 days, I won't be able to close my fingers because my knuckles swell so much.
Oh, yeah.
But it works. It works so much better for me. I have better results than anything else for streamers. And even like woolly buggers or anything, it's just like this thing works. And yeah, 3 casts, I caught a good fish. And I know that if we did that day, we would have got his fish, but it was something that was a little out of the skill level.
Sure.
I don't know, but I'll take him again.
I remember seeing that well before you posted the video, like your reel about that you're going to take somebody, from your followers out on a trip. And it's a bold move. You never know who you're going to end up with, for one. And it was at the same time such a cool idea. I mean, I definitely wanted to do it. Like I was like, oh man, that'd be so fun. But I'm out here in California. It was a short notice thing. It was like you needed to get there the next weekend or something.
Yeah,
it's super pricey. But if as long as you screen properly, and obviously you have the last say, right, of like who you're going fishing with, and you picked a great guest. That was a good episode, man.
Yeah, I should note, because we didn't actually say this, and there are probably people listening to this who don't know what we're talking about fully, that haven't picked up on it yet. But I have a YouTube series called Fishing for Tattoos, and I take people fishing, and I generally make them a bet or a wager, and they get tattooed based on their fishing day. I don't make everyone a bet. Sometimes they just get tattooed based on their fishing experience, but sometimes there's something involved that they have to accomplish, or they have to get like a losing tattoo. And that's pretty much the premise of the show. And it's slow. It's a slow progress, because I thought I would have 20 episodes out by now, but I think I have 8.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I watched episode 8. That was the last one. Yeah,
I'm gonna lean into the squirmy worm one, so that was the easiest to film and edit, and so I'm gonna do a bunch of those coming up, where I'm gonna pull people from Instagram, but I'll be able to go fish with them for like 30 minutes and then come tattoo them, and it'll be a small fly tattoo, so it'll take like the whole experience will be a 4-hour experience, and it'll be very easy.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm headed there. So that reel that I chose Sean from, I actually ended up messaging other people from that. And because people were from out of state and it was last minute, but there were a couple people where I clicked on their page after I messaged Sean. Sean was the first choice, but so many people replied that I felt obligated to do more. And so I messaged a couple more people, and 2 guys who left really good comments that really were attention grabbing guys that just looked like the type. One of them, I clicked on his page, and he had like some really gnarly accident and had to like, I think, learn to walk again, and he had like a video of his progress over the past few years. I was like, oh dude, this guy's in,
Yeah. It's like, all I want is to catch another fish one more time.
Well, his comment said like, it was like, I'll travel. It said, I am trout. Like, yeah, that guy's rad. And then I've got a guy, he's actually coming in next week, who's he's a principal at a special needs school in Wyoming. And so he's coming down, and we're not going to go trout fishing. We're going to try to target it's really early here, and we're about to have a lot of rain, but we're going to go try smallmouth fishing prematurely.
Cool.
It's one of my favorite things because it's like steelheading. You're swinging like these big jig head flies really deep, and you don't strip. You're just swinging them just like steelheading, and the fish hook themselves, like.
That's for me right there. I like it.
It's so cool. And they're so fat because they haven't done anything all winter. They've just been sitting on bottom eating things that drift by them. Yeah. And so they eat so well, and they set the hook on themselves, and it's so much fun. It can be really hit or miss. And I feel like this dude's flying in, and he bought his own plane ticket. I'll cover everything else once he gets here, but he did buy his own plane ticket. I want to, in the future, get to where I can buy plane tickets for people, but I have to monetize it first.
You just need the right sponsors, man. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about that is like getting sponsors is tricky, not because it's hard to get sponsors, because fly fishing is actually pretty easy to get sponsors for.
Oh, it is, man. I need to get into that.
I think if you just called people and told them what you had and what your reach was, like, I don't ever want to exploit Instagram. Like, I'm not an influencer. I have no desire to be an influencer. I have a big following on there, but it's not because people want to look at pictures of me holding fish. They follow me because I make art. Mm-hmm. And so I don't ever want to exploit that and try to sell them stuff that I didn't make. You know what I mean? It's like you want it to be pure. And so with the YouTube series, I could get sponsors, but I don't want anyone to tell me I can't have like something inappropriate involved. What?
You don't want to be beholden to somebody in that sense. Yeah.
And I don't want to be getting censored, so Sims did a feature on it, and they wanted to do a feature on the David Gravett episode.
Oh yeah.
And I told them, well, you better watch it first, and they're like, well, we saw this. And it's like, no, you need to watch the episode and you need to listen to every word. And then like 30 minutes later, I get a message back that's like, yeah, we can't do that one.
I think he might be smoking weed in the episode too.
Well, he smokes weed in it on the boat. He's got like a joint in his hand. Dave owns a rolling paper company called Parachute Papers, and he just constantly smokes spliffs. Yeah. And his body is so broken from being a professional skateboarder and doing all the gnarly stuff he's done that if anyone should ever like smoke weed nonstop, it's him. Like he deserves to just do whatever he needs to feel good. But it wasn't that, and it wasn't the level of profanity in it, because there's a lot of profanity in it. Oh, it was when I showed the tattoos on his legs.
Oh, there was some dicks and some.
There's like dicks and boobs, and they didn't want to use that.
There was a hilarious one that was like a dick coming boobs or something like that.
Yeah. So that was funny because I wanted to bet him. I wanted to bet him a ridiculous tattoo because I knew he would get whatever.
Yeah.
But I also wanted there to be a level of like, oh man, I got to get that. And I knew that he would have been like, yeah, sure. So what do? You're like, if you don't catch this, you got to get a fish with a dick on it. He'd be like, not a big deal. That's cool. And so I decided that rather than betting him anything, I would just give him a really just try to make him a good tattoo, because he just needed a good tattoo. That was a funny one. So Sims ended up doing their feature on the squirmy worm one. And because it's wholesome and easy.
A little more, tame. Yeah.
And I'm stoked that they did, because that's my friend Johnny's shop. It's the hat that I'm currently wearing, Jackalope Cycling. Cool. I don't ride a bike, really. I have a bike. I don't ride it. I'm pretty bad at that. I used to ride all the time, but I just want to support Johnny. And so I wear this hat every day. I have people send me hats pretty often who will like hit me up on Instagram and be like, hey, I want to send you this. And I always say, okay. And I'll try to take a picture in it or something to send to him to be like, thankful, thank you for sending me this. But whenever this hat wears out, I'm just going to get another one from him, because I want to support his shop and I want to have his shop name on everything that I can. And so I was stoked.
It's a good hat too.
It's a good hat. And then I was happy Sims chose to post that one. Our town we live in is very small. This is a town of 28,000 people, and the closest city is about an hour away. So it's also a really chain business town. Like, people don't understand local business here. And so it's a very common thing for people to go into like the bike shop and be like, this is too expensive. I can just buy a bike at Walmart. They just don't understand the difference. Mm-hmm. And there's a community of people trying to do good here, and I want to be a big part of that. And so I just make sure to support every small local business I can.
Yeah, man. I have entrepreneur friends like this too, and they make me so proud, and I can't help but talk about them all the time and try to do the same thing you're talking about. Like,
it's so important. It's important for me too. And so I only make money when I spend money because I'm a tattooer. Even in my online store, I treat it that way. So if I ever go to if I move to a new town, before Instagram worked for me, before I could just get clients from the internet, when you moved somewhere new, you had to go make clients if the shop wasn't busy. Mm-hmm. So I would go out to the bar and I'd tip the bartender $50 the first night if they were tattooed at all. And then the next thing you know, they're my client. And then they're coming in and getting tattooed by me, and they're telling everyone at the bar to come to me. And so it's always been spend money in the service industry and tip 100% everywhere you go, because that's how you're going to make money. If you don't do that, you're going to be broke. If you do that, you're going to make money. And that's always been my mindset. And it doesn't really work that way anymore because all my clients come from Instagram, and no one really gets tattooed here from this town. I have a few local clients, but most everyone just comes from out of state. And so I still go out though to try to spend money in local businesses. And so I go to this one coffee shop and I buy gift cards from the coffee shop to give to the post office because they ship my stuff, and I want to appreciate them. And that way, because I don't drink that much coffee, but that way I can support the coffee shop. And it's just this circle where you spend money in those and eventually it'll come back to you. And now there's kids at the coffee shop who are buying merchandise from me because I've been in there so much, even though they don't fish that much.
And it feels good. It feels good for them to know you at those shops. It's embarrassing to go into Starbucks and have them know you and know your drink, kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
you're just but those ones you want them to know you. You want that rapport. You want
Yeah, when you live in a town of 28,000 people in Arkansas, it's a small place. It's big enough. I mean, we have a Starbucks here. But when you go spend that money at Starbucks, they're sending that money basically to Seattle, and then Seattle sends back the money that the shop gets from it, that location gets from it. It's not actually how it works, but it's a big franchise. So that money doesn't necessarily stay local. But when you spend money at the local coffee shop, the owner is financing, he's making money from that, and he's not sending it. He's going to buy beans and stuff like that and his cups from other places, but he's paying rent locally. He didn't own his building, he's just getting by, and he pays his employees locally, and they all feel that and they all appreciate that. And they remember you because of that. And even if they don't spend money at my business or spend money with me, they'll see me in there wearing this Jackalope cycling hat, tipping them really well and treating them really well. And then maybe they'll think about going to his shop when they need something. And if everyone had that mindset, and I'm not saying that I'm right. I know I don't want to get on a high horse about that because I'm still fucking up plenty in life. But I think if more people did that, we would be doing better as a whole.
No, I agree. That's kind of what I refer to as kind of basic human behavior too,
just being decent,
common regular stuff.
I do every time anyone asks me to do a podcast, if I can, I do it because I want to try to be a part of everying, and if Starbucks asked me to do a podcast, I would not. I got some emails some years ago to try out for Ink Master, and
oh yeah.
A lot of people got them. It's not like, hey, you're on the show. It's like, hey, we want you to try out. Yeah. And a lot of people shared on the internet, them telling Ink Master to go fuck themselves or whatever. And I didn't. I just said, no, I'm not interested, because I don't want to be a part of something like that. But I feel like anything that's big to a point where you could support them and they don't know it, I don't need to support them. I want to support people that at the end of the day, they're tallying up their register and they're like, oh, I didn't do that bad today. That makes a difference. The fly shop in your neighborhood has days where they do $0. And then there's days where they do $5,000.
Yeah.
And if you can help on that $0 day, they're going to know. It's just such an important thing, particularly in fly fishing, man. Because the fishing industry as a pie chart, I would guess fly fishing is probably less than 3% of the fishing industry, if not less than that.
Pretty niche. Yeah.
It's so small. And we feel like it's big because it's gotten really vast where there's a million people who fly fish who you don't know. You know, it's very similar to skateboarding. It used to be that if there was a kid in your neighborhood who skateboarded, you were either friends or enemies. You know, there was never, you didn't know them. And now, like, I meet people all the time who fly fish, who are in my neighborhood. The guy who lives right behind me ordered some stuff from me the other day. Okay. This guy Rants. I was looking at his address and I was like, I think this guy lives out, like, we don't even have a fence between our houses. Oh, yeah. I think that's his house.
Yeah, I'm going to walk this one over.
I did. It's embarrassingly, it took me 7 days to get around to it. No. I'd been to the post office twice already since he'd ordered, but I was like, I got to go down there. I don't want to walk down there. Sometimes I'll be packing orders at 2 a.m. You know, it's like, I just want to walk down there and catch him outside or something. And now we're buddies, but it feels vast, but fly fishing is still very small. It's still like a very small niche industry. And when you can spend money in your local fly shop, they know. And it makes a difference. There's always like the wealthy executive type that goes in and buys an entire like waders, you know, boots, rod, everything for a trip. And then they just get rid of it or lose it. And then they just buy it again the next trip.
Those are the dream customers for them, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. But still, like going in and buying, you know, some tippet and like some fly tying materials and stuff like that. Like, they do feel that, and it is important, and especially on a slow day. Yeah. Like on a slow day, you could be such a big difference just by spending $60 at your local shop. And I preach that all the time. Johnny over at Jackalope, he set up a little fly shop in Jackalope, and it's small, and they don't have necessarily everything that you need, but they have some stuff. And so I'll drive past, you know, a lot of places to try to go there. And I'll have, you know, I said I'm not an influencer. I don't like taking free stuff from companies. If it's a small company and someone's like, hey, I want to send you a hat, or we want to send you this, I might take it. But like, I don't want to be out there promoting other businesses. But I've had fly line companies reach out to ask if they could send me stuff. And it's like, I'll just buy your stuff from this store because they sell it in town. I'd rather just support my friend and buy it full price from him than get it for free from the, you know, direct company. Yeah. Because I just want to gas my homie up. That's why I'm talking about him right now, because I want people who are hearing this to hear his name, because I want to gas up my community. It's important.
I'm going to throw an ad for my buddy's pizza shop at the end of this episode.
Yeah, dude.
For the same reason.
Is it there? Where are you guys at?
I'm in Sacramento.
Sacramento? What's his pizza shop? Let's do it right now.
His shop's called Pizza Supreme Being, and it is the best pizza in town. I'm not just saying it because it's my buddy.
What kind of slice, though? Is it like...
It's a New York kind of slice, but he's also got a Detroit kind of square, grandma square.
Okay, the grandma, yeah. So on the New York slice, is it like a foldable slice, or is it you don't gotta fold it?
It's you don't have to fold it, but it's like it's sourdough crust that he does himself. Can't say enough good about it. He does it very minimal. He'll do like a cheese and a pepperoni and his version of Hawaiian, which is Spam, jalapeno, and pineapple. And then he'll do occasional specials, like so he'll throw a everything bagel pizza together or something crazy like that, and does it by the slice and does whole pies. Then he sells out and he closes up for the day, and he's got his operation. It's like hardcore themed, like hardcore music and shit, and it's like he does everything right, man.
This episode of the Secret Society of Fly Tires is brought to you by Pizza Supreme Being, the finest pizza shop in all the land. Pizza Supreme Being makes delicious pizzas that are absolutely filled with flavors, colors, textures, and forbidden delights. Located at 1425 14th Street in Sacramento, California, Pizza Supreme Being makes truly delicious pizza pies. Do you love delicious pizza, or are you an idiot? That's what I thought. Now scoot on over to Pizza Supreme Being and get yourself a meal you will never forget.
That's the talking about that earlier, touching on the definitions of success, being at a point where you sell out every day. And instead of making the mindset like, well, I better make more so I can keep making money, being like, I sold enough, I'm going to go home.
It's badass, right?
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
It's badass, dude. I that's what I'm saying. I think he does everything right. Like enough's enough. It's like it's the same in the fishing world, right? Where like, you may not need to catch 100 fish a day, like, but that one good one is plenty,
Well, 100 fish day, everybody has it every now and again. You have a day where you catch like 50 to 100 fish, and your first one of the day is like cool. And then they start feeling less important, and so you start being like, I need to get a bigger one or whatever. And 100 fish day can breed that fish hog mentality where you start to not care about the fish that you're catching because it feels like a carbon copy of a fish you already caught and didn't appreciate. And so 100 fish days can be poisonous. I think a 10 fish day is a good day, because a 10 fish day keeps you busy, especially if you get like one or two that are like solid, but when you have to work for it and it comes through like seldom, and then you get the reward, I think that's really like the absolute best. I think 100 fish day is pornographic, and I like it when I'm rowing the boat and I'm taking people fishing who don't know how to fly fish. If we get like a 50 to 100 fish day, I like that.
They're losing their mind. Yeah, they're losing their mind.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is just so fun. Yeah.
But I like it when like a few trips in with those same people, they starting to get that it's not about like just hitting the numbers, and it's about enjoying the time and then getting a few good ones and appreciating them.
Yeah.
And then appreciating any fish that'll eat your fly when you're throwing something that isn't a normal thing.
Yeah, I was just talking to my buddy Steve. We were turkey hunting and got skunked. We didn't get any birds. But we were talking about the same thing about like those trips that are like you have a destination and a fish, like a specific fish on that destination. Like those are the fun trips. Like because if you find that fish, it's like mission accomplished, and it's I don't know, makes it all come together.
I like to have a goal anytime I go. I do like that. It's fun, of course, to be like, I just want to go see if I can catch anything, but I really like going somewhere with a goal. And when you're traveling from a distance to go somewhere to catch a specific fish, it is really fun when it all comes together. I don't like it happening right away. I don't like when if I'm going to go bull trout fishing. Bull trout are one of my favorite fish. I love everything about them except for that they don't jump. If they jumped, they would be the total package, because that fish, that's the perfect trout. And the only issue is that they don't jump, but I'm willing to deal with it. That's a sacrifice I'll make just for the way that they eat and the flies they eat and the water they live in. But if I want to catch a big bull trout, if I was to go to the bull trout river and catch a fish on like my third or fourth cast that was like the fish I wanted, it kind of takes the wind out of the sails kind of early on, or you start to get that like, oh dang, and then you catch a 30-incher right away, and then after that, like the 18-incher doesn't matter anymore. And so I really like a slow build. I like my trip fish to come, about 60 to 70% of the way through the trip.
Yeah, I hear you.
It feels best that way.
You mentioned something else to rewind a little bit on the fishing for tattoos. You said you like bad luck tattoos, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I wanted you to talk about that a little bit. I know that, this interview did not at all go how I planned. Like, we're just kind of rambling, and I love it. I mean, we're not sticking to any of the questions I had, and that's totally cool. And I might ask you a fly tying question before we get through this whole thing.
Yeah. You're going to get an answer that you're going to be really disappointed with, because I haven't tied in a while.
I kind of was hoping that you didn't even tie at all, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a good tire in the first place. So the bad luck tattoos, I'll touch on that first.
Yeah.
So there is a thing that everyone who knows anything about tattoo shops has heard of, and that's Friday the 13th specials. You go get a little 13, usually they're like $20 or something like that. Do you know why they do it?
I don't. No.
Tattooers don't even know why they do it. Getting a 13's an unlucky number. Why would you put an unlucky thing on you? So there's there's actually a history to it. There's a mythology to it. There's a lot of history and tradition in tattooing, and a lot of it's it's kind of horseshit because it was just made up by dudes just like me.
Yeah.
Just like
that's cool though.
Grumpy white dudes in their 40s, you know, were like, oh, this will tell those kids this.
Yeah.
The idea of it originally was that bad luck is an actual character. Like a Grim Reaper is death. There is a thing that is bad luck. It's a being. And on Friday the 13th, being such an unlucky day, bad luck is out doing his work and he's busy. And you go and you get marked by bad luck when you get a 13 tattooed on you. So when he finally comes back around and finds you, he sees that you're already marked and he leaves you alone. And that's the idea of a bad luck tattoo. That's the idea of a 13. That's the idea of the better luck next time tattoo that Sean got, which I love because you're wearing the time that you failed. And so from there is only achievement. And yeah, I've got some 13s on me. Sadly, Friday the 13th and 13 tattoos have just become the cheap tattoo that people get because it's cheap. And, you know, I have a $200 minimum now.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll go do Friday the 13th tattoos sometimes at shops if they're doing specials, and I'll do $20 tattoos all day.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got people in there who are like, you know, they want to get just all they want is cheap shit. And it's like, this is the only time I'm ever going to tattoo this person. It's become a thing. It used to be also a fun thing for your clients. It was like a customer appreciation thing, and it just got taken over by people who were cheap. You know?
Like a customer appreciation thing, like you give them one for free, or just like a super
No. Like, oh, we're going to do this fun party day, and you come in and we'll have beers at the shop, and like, there'll be music. It'll be big hangout, and everybody gets these little fun tattoos for $20. And like that basically just covers the supplies and everything. And that's what it was that's what it was when I started working in shops. But I got in at the very tail end of that. And then with social media bringing all this popularity out of nowhere, everybody wanted to get like Friday the 13th tattoos. And it got advertised really well because you have people who can post online and say, you know, we're doing this. And it can get to where, like, you know, the last Friday the 13th I worked, when we opened, there was a line of about 150 people standing outside.
No shit. I mean, I must not be in on the tattoo culture stuff. I don't have enough tattoo friends because, like, I have plenty of tattoos. But I don't know this stuff.
Yeah, man. I'll do on every Friday the 13th. I do about 60 tattoos in a day, and it's nonstop, dude. It's like, and I work from noon to midnight. I might cut it at 10, but I'll usually stay until midnight. And after midnight, if there's like one person left, I'll be like, you want to get a 14? Because I'm not doing 13s unless it's the 13th. I have a 14 on me.
That's good.
No one ever goes for it, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It used to be a really fun thing. Now it's kind of a thing that you kind of dread when you got to do it. But I still like the party aspect of it. And so I'll go work them on occasion if certain people are doing them or certain shops are doing them. And yeah, it's a funny thing to take your $200 minimum and then just kick that out the door for the day and do $20 tattoos.
Yeah. Well, it's a big social thing too. That's cool.
Yep. And I don't do a good job of them either. Like if you'll never meet someone who was like, oh, look at my 13 I got from Drew. This is the best tattoo I have. Because I shade them with liners. Usually I'm just like, fuck, man, it'll be a tattoo. That's it. All I guarantee is that it's going to be a tattoo at the end of it, you know?
That's funny, man. You know, I had all these questions about your art and stuff, and I actually, as I've been talking to you, I'm going to use them. I'm going to use the stuff that I was going to ask you as part of my monologue that I'm going to write through this episode. And I love that we got deep into fishing for tattoos and just tattoos in general. And I have one more question for you that is not related to tattooing or tying or anything like that. But do you have any paranormal experiences, like anything, ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, angels, fairies, mermaids?
Anything? I have a couple.
Yeah?
I do. I have a couple.
Any you want to share with me?
Yeah. Part of them aren't really shareable, but I do want to touch on them where it's like I was a lot younger and a lot of it was probably brought on some like by some crazy family stress and some drama and some stuff like that, where you're just part of a very heated situation. And then something happens and you're like, my grandmother's been dead for 5 years, but she's standing in the corner of the room right now. Like, or something like that, where you just like, for just a second, you're like, something might've just happened in my brain. I don't know. But I've seen what I think was of course it was a UFO by definition, because it was an unidentified flying object. But I saw a very erratic flying object years before drones were invented on a camping trip. When I was younger, I was laying in a field and there was a satellite essentially that we were watching moving, but it would like move, at like a curve and then stop and then shoot really fastly over. And it's like that thing just covered like 3 miles in a matter of 2 seconds. And I remember one of the kids on the camping trip was crying because he was like very afraid of the situation. And I think that he might have felt like maybe there wasn't a God for the first time in his life or something like that, because he was seeing something that was undeniably strange. I have no like up close experiences with anything like Bigfoot or aliens. But that one night, what I saw, I don't think was like a man-made object, because it was before the technology was available.
Yeah.
I would have been in like 8th grade.
You hear folks describe sightings like that as like a ping pong ball in a jar kind of like movement or whatever, like where it's like erratic and unpredictable flight patterns.
Yeah. It was super strange. And then it would disappear and then it would show up. And the distance it looked like this thing was from us. Now, I don't know the size of it, but it looked like it was like higher than planes fly significantly. And at one point it got larger, but not like it came down into like our lower atmosphere. But it was, I have a vivid memory of it because it was so wild. I was at a summer camp in Hunt, Texas called Camp Stewart. My grandmother sent me there, and they had a camp night, and we're all laying out in the stars. It's me and a whole like cabin full of people. There was like 18 to 20 people out there when it happened, and they canceled the night, and we all had to go back to our cabins.
Over that scenario?
Yes,
oh, wow.
Because this one kid lost his mind because it was something that was just unexplainable.
Yeah. Did everybody think that you guys just fucked with them or something like that and like made you?
No, everyone so I don't remember the reactions of people who weren't there because we were kind of sectioned to our cabins. Like you did all your activities with your group. So the only time that I saw other people is at like lunchtime and stuff like that. And I remember talking to my cousin about it and him not believing me, but I don't really remember a lot of the response from everyone else afterwards. But I remember it being a very big production for us to go do this field camping thing because everybody had to have certain like sleeping stuff, so we had like these mats, and it wasn't like we were just sleeping on the ground in sleeping bags, and we weren't in tents. It was a night under the stars, but it was like a pretty high-end camp. My grandmother was like, we were raised very poor, but my grandmother was wealthy. My dad had been excommunicated, so we were like cut off from the family money, but I would get to go do things every now and again where I would be the kid who got free lunch at school, but I was hanging out with the rich kids, like at summer camp. And they didn't know because I'd be in Texas or something. And I lived in Arkansas. So It wasn't like they were the rich kids from my school where they would bully me at summer camp. But I just remember this big production, this big event of hours of them setting up for this like night under the stars thing. And we were out there for a few hours, and then that happened, and that was the end of the night. And they made us go back to our cabin, and they just left everything out there.
What the hell?
And that's weird, right?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like they've had it before, like it happened before.
Well, I don't know. That's the only one I can think of right now that really stands out as like paranormal. I think there's a lot going on that like we can't see, in the same sense that like a dog whistle, like I can't hear a dog whistle, but my dog can hear it at 100 yards.
Oh,
I think ours.
Now you're speaking my language, man. Yeah. Now we're getting weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you remember when you were a kid and a TV would be on, but nothing would be on it, and you could hear the TV. where it would be like that high pitched noise.
Yeah, sure.
And then as you get older, your ears become deaf to it. But
or differently, visually, when you're like, you can't see the remote, you know, if you're changing channels on the remote control, you can't see the infrared coming out. But if you like point it at a mirror or a camera or something like that, catch the infrared, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that whole thing, there's so much going on that we can't pick up on that we use every day. And the dog whistle thing, I think it's so egotistical and arrogant to think that we are such perfect beings that we could pick up on everything. Like you can't see a smell, you know, but like there's something there that should be visual, and there's certain things that can't, like you can put something under a microscope and look at it and you could see what's causing that smell. And so there's aliens potentially that are just on different wavelengths than us that have been here, and we just can't even see them, you know, because they're not made of the same things that we're used to, that we see.
That's kind of one of the big popular theories right now. I don't know if how deep you are into that UFO subject, but
I'm not.
Yeah, I read a lot about it, and you're talking stuff that's kind of like top of the subject right now. Like the big one of the big names is Tom DeLonge, right, from Blink-182.
Blink-182
and his group, you know, to the Stars Academy that they've put together, that's gotten all these government contracts, and I've been doing fictional work that are like supposedly telling real stories at the same time. I don't know. It's a weird thing that I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I don't know if I believe it or not, but their thing, which includes people that are like ex-CIA and you know, intelligence folks, like claim that's one of their claims, is that like they're right here. You can't see them. It's on a different level, different wavelength or whatever, different spectrum or something, right?
Well, so the way that Stranger Things touched on the upside down, that the way that show like touches on this like flipped dimension, I don't think anything like that's going on. I think it's like in the room with you, you know what I mean?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like and those beings may not even perceive you, or they may not be beings. They may just be energy, but there's just a ton that we can't see and can't experience. And I think it's so egotistical to think that just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not real, you know, like, I don't know, man.
Well, that's why I said paranormal when I asked that question, because I really kind of lump it all together. I've been reading about all that stuff, you know, just as a personal interest for so long now, and like to me, it's all really kind of under the same umbrella for sure.
Well, there's also the possibility that the people who have experienced it, angels, demons, aliens, all that they have always been here, and there's just moments where you're susceptible to it. You know,
and everybody's perception is different too, right? It's the how your brain perceives what you're seeing, right?
The human body just has moments of, let's say it's a immune system drop, or something happens where you become susceptible to something that you weren't. Like let's say cellulitis staph infection. You have it right now on your body at this exact moment, and you're harboring it in your nose at this exact moment. Most everyone carries staph with them on something every day. It is such a common thing to just have it on you. And you can get cut in that same spot and not get it. It's just about when you're susceptible to it. Sometimes people will sleep on like a couch at their friend's house and wake up with staph infection in their face. They were carrying it on their face the entire month before with no problems. It's just about the moment that they become susceptible. And there's someone who's going to hear this, who's going to know immensely more than I know about that, who's going to think I'm a fucking idiot. I'm just talking out of like the level of understanding as far as bacteria and pathogens go as like a tattooer. But there's got to be a time that something can happen and you become susceptible to something visual around you that you didn't expect to see or that you didn't expect to experience. And so I feel like with the whole idea of a dog whistle, there's got to be something that happens that makes you susceptible to hearing it on occasion. Because I feel like there's been a time in my life that I heard a dog whistle. And I remember as a kid, my mom not being able to tell you that the TV was on, and me being able to say the TV was on, even though it was on mute or something, just because I could hear the high-pitched squeal and she couldn't. Now, I mean, technology's improved vastly since then, but I just look back to like your young ears and your old ears, or like my young eyes versus my old eyes. It could always be around you. I mean, you can't see air, but you can breathe it, you know?
Yeah, there's been recent stuff that is lending some credibility to the idea that folks who have had near-death experiences are having these paranormal experiences on a more regular basis than folks who have not. So yeah, maybe something's, happening inside, whatever perception, whatever sense they're getting there. Something's getting jostled around. And like,
I mean, what are we supposed to use? Like just a small percentage of our brains, You remember the movie, what is it? Phenomena. Is that right? With,
I think so.
John Travolta, where he has a brain tumor, but it gives him like the ability to kind of move things. Now, of course, it's a fictional film, but I don't know, if you can visualize it in your brain, it is possible, so if you can imagine pigs with wings, like logically, pigs will never fly. But if you can picture a pig with wings, it could potentially exist because you can put it together in your brain, right?
Mm.
So it maybe not in our realm, maybe not on our Earth, maybe on a different planet, pigs have wings. But if you can visualize it, it happens. There's things you can't visualize. You can't visualize a round square because it doesn't work. It doesn't work with the human brain. It doesn't work in the laws of our language. But if you have the ability to think about something creatively, somewhere out there, like we're not even, in the room that you're in right now, there's a speck of dust in that room that represents that's larger than us in your room than we are on this entire planet in the universe. There's so much going on. It's so vain to think that we are not, or that we're the only ones, and that we're, the idea of God, which I'm not religious. I do not knock anyone who's religious. I'm a big fan of a lot of religious texture, or religious literature. I'm getting really worked up about this because I get excited about stuff like this. I never talk about it either because I live in a town that is 98% Christian, and I don't want to disappoint anyone here because I want to be respectful of their religion. There's a level of vanity that comes with religion to think like we're special. And if we do good, we can live eternal, and a lot of people just have a problem with just living and dying. Like it's just not enough. And I think it's extremely vain to think that way. In the same sense, to think that the universe is so big and so vast. You can look into the sky with your naked eye and see things that are bigger than the planet Earth at any given night if it's not cloudy. And to think that, that goes on infinitely. To think that we are special and that we deserve and that nowhere else anything would be it's ridiculous. There are ostriches with their heads in the sand right now that have a broader spectrum of thought than people who think that we're the only ones.
Yeah.
Now, are they here is a whole different thing. They could always been here. I don't know. I think if you can visualize it, which I can visualize every sort of alien there is, then they're probably out there. Like, I don't know, if I draw a lot. If I can think of something and draw it, maybe it's a piece of art for me here on Earth, but it could be an accurate representation of something that exists 20 lifetimes away, and you just never know. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, part of me feels the same way, and then half of me is always like, this is like a very advanced simulation, and it is just all just one big hologram, you know?
I don't think that. I don't think that, because there's a level of vanity involved in that that makes
Or
you think that like someone would give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like the whole Truman Show aspect of it, where it's like, yeah, like Truman as the thing, like the whole thing's based around him. If this is a big advanced simulation, then it has a lot to do with tricking you. And I think that it's pretty vain to look at other people and think that, or everything, and think that it's here for you. My goal on my time on this earth is to be happy until I die as best I can, and to try to get other people happy as well. Just to find joy and have experiences while I'm here. And if this is a simulation and that's all it is, that's okay. Like,
I think
because
that mode of living is what we all need to kind of, lean toward, man. Like I completely agree. Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do? What are you going to stress about? Like,
Yeah.
I have stresses. Don't get me wrong. I worry about money. I worry about if I'm my biggest fear is dying before I finish working on a project. Like, let's say I never edited those 3 fishing for tattoos videos I have filmed now, and I died. And like, who's going to edit those?
Yeah.
What if they don't do a good enough job? What if they don't tell it the way I want it told? Or I have like a big muskie painting I'm working on right now at the house, and I have to I only have like 2 or 3 hours of work left on it. But if I died, who's going to finish it? That's my only real fear in going, because I've had such a good experience on this planet. Like, my wife fucking rules, and she loves me so much, and I am so thankful for her. I could live 50 more years with her and be super thankful for it. But if I died with the experience I've had with her thus far, I will die full from that. My fishing career has been good. My art career has been really rewarding. Like, of course, I've done plenty of dumb shit. I've fucked up a ton of stuff, and I have plenty of regrets just like anyone else. But I felt like if this is all I had, if I died tomorrow, which I don't want to, but if I did, I would be leaving knowing that I lived a lot more in my limited years. I've added a lot of life to my years rather than just years to my life. So the whole simulation aspect, if that was the case, it wouldn't matter to me, if that makes sense.
Sure.
People say that we're like, we're just living in a big simulation anyway, and it's like, yeah, who gives a shit?
Well, that's the argument about religion anyway, right? Is whether people would live by these regular set of morals without the book or not, right? Like, and that's like, do is it needed? Like, will people still be human and to each other, without it or not? So, I mean, all you can do is try to be cool. And hey, and if you have these unedited things and you kick the bucket in some crazy boating accident, tell your wife to send me the videos. I'll wrap them up for you the best that I can. I've watched 8 of them, so I think I have a minimal idea about what you want to put together.
Dude, my sister's one is going to be so cool.
Yeah,
if I ever just do it, I like. It's going to be so cool. My sister, I know you probably have to go at this point, and I'm just rambling. My sister is she teaches people to grow food. And she has this huge channel, and she has like written some books that have been like Amazon bestsellers and stuff like that. She is just an exceptional, larger than life person, and everything she touches works. And so I went out and visited her. She lives in South Carolina, and she has a pond on her land that she wanted to get in line to being like a producing pond, where she could do things like grow water plants, but also fish for food as well as fish for trophies and fun.
Some panfish and stuff.
Yeah. So this pond, I went out and I fished it for 3 days, and I went out in like a kayak and measured its depth everywhere. and I wanted to try to get as good of an assessment as I could of the pond. And after 3 days, I like had a firm assessment of what type of fish were in there, how deep it is, everything. And then how do we get this on the right track? And so because she is a gardener and she does like homesteading videos and stuff like that, I wanted it to be kind of based around that, because it's a fishing for tattoos video, but there's no bed involved. The entire purpose of it is management. And with a pond being a closed ecosystem, everything you put in there is you planting a seed. And I really got into it, and it's going to be such a cool video. She lives in a gardening zone where you can grow citrus,
cool.
Which means that, like, so in the South, the most common bait fish, I don't know for you guys, because I just don't know. But we have fathead minnows. What do you guys have as far as like your common minnow?
I want to say jack smelt.
Okay, jack smelt.
I could be wrong. Yeah, I'm not. I should know, but I don't.
Well, fathead minnows, they spawn.
We get a lot of shad, a lot of American shad and stuff.
Yeah, you guys have that giant shad run. But these, I'm talking like tiny minnows, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so fathead minnows, they spawn in Arkansas. They'll spawn between like 4 to 8 times a year, depending on the year and the weather. But she lives where you can grow citrus, so they can spawn year round. So you might get 10 to 12 spawns out of these minnows. There were no minnows in her pond. So there's crappie and like panfish, like bluegill, greenback sunfish and whatnot. And then there's some like mud catfish. And none of these fish were big. Like none of the crappie are bigger than 4 inches, because there's no minnows. They can only eat bugs and small bluegill, you know? And so there's just nothing to feed them, and there are no predators in the whole pond. So there's no bass at all. And so we went and got bass. We found another homestead close to her that had stunted bass. So all their bass can't grow over 1.5 pounds, and they eat everything. So we went there and we took 20 of them. Rather than stocking 300 bass in at fingerlings and waiting for them to grow, we took 20 really mad bass that were already ready to eat everything. The day we put these bass in her pond, blow-ups were happening. Yeah. Like fish that had already been caught that day and transported, and we put them in a new pond, and they're already crashing bluegill on the banks. Wow. So we put in 20 bass. I put in 5 pounds of fathead minnows to give the pond like a small bait fish, and they started reproducing immediately. They're still there. You know, they're thriving there now. And so since then, it's been a year. They're already catching larger crappie. They haven't fished much this winter, but they're already catching bass out of there. And those bass should start spawning. I counted, we put in, I think, 12 males and 8 females. So they should start spawning in there soon. And rather than just, a lot of times when people get a pond, they'll just drain it and they'll start over with whatever they want, you know?
They just survey it, and that's the only way to do it.
Yeah. So rather than like tilling up the field essentially and destroying everything there to make it this factory farm, we took something that was there naturally and we gave it a pretty firm nudge in the direction we want it to grow.
Yeah.
And so it's a 5-year plan, but the results should be very visible within 3 years of what I'm wanting to do with it. And we took out, there were so many bluegill in there. And so we fly fish for bluegill, and we took out about 200 fish. I mean, that's a drop in the pan with how many fish are in there, but it's just to send it in the right direction. And we planted them below tomato plants and put them in her mulch pile. I never kill fish, but I killed 200 bluegill for this project. And then her tattoo, I'm ruining this whole thing for anyone who watches, but it's completely fine. Her tattoo, we did a bluegill with some tomatoes. And
that's cool.
Yeah, dude, it was such a cool thing because there's so many types of fishing. And, you know, you think of different types of fishing. You think of fly fishing, you think of, you know, spin fishing, coastal trolling, commercial fishing, all that. You don't often think of management-based fishing. And there, so much of that is involved in everything that we love is being managed. And that's why we have limits. It's why this river's closed half the year and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We just generally don't think about the benefit of that. And
yeah, you just think about all the things that take it away from you, right? You think about all the negatives. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and so with that, like being able to participate in something like that and do all the reading myself and make all the decisions myself, and to already, part of the reason I haven't edited it, for one, because I'm lazy and it's scary, and because my sister's well known, a lot of people are going to see it, and that's scary because it's not people who follow me, it's people who follow her. So it's, if you follow me, you expect me to do like, you know, like make jerk off jokes and shit like that.
Yeah.
And so, but Jess has a very like Christian, conservative gardening following. And when those people come to my YouTube channel to watch her video, if they click on David Gravette's video, they're going to be mad at me.
No. Next thing you know, they're coming to your shop wanting a fish tattoo. That's what's
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. I don't know. But I'm excited about that one. It'll be really, really cool if I get around to it. I lost a memory card that had a lot of my like explaining on it.
Mm.
And so I have to redo that. And that's hard because it's only genuine the first time.
I know. I dread that happening to me. It's going to happen one day. I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose something. I've already had to re-record episodes and things like that, but losing a giant chunk, like a computer crash, a hard drive crash.
Oh, dude.
Crossing my fucking fingers, man.
Then you have to call the person and you have to be like, I lost it. Can we do it again? And if they say yes, you have to be like, I really liked when you said this. You know? Can we get that back in the mix? And
I'd probably just make my buddy Morgan pretend to be that person and we'd do it fake for him.
Yeah, that's perfect. Fake do that for me. Make me sound, gas me up. You make me sound interesting. You just have him do a voice like mine.
Well, hello there. I'm Drew Wilson, the creative mastermind behind all sorts of cool fish art and tattoos, and today's guest on the secret society of fly tyers. One thing you may not know about me is that I am a very accomplished and professional fly tyer. Not only do I tie all of my own beautiful flies, but I also source my own materials. Let's use Arctic fox as an example. As a young boy, I purchased a pair of these foxes for breeding purposes. I raised them to trust me as if I was their fox father and coaxed them into having many litters of little foxlets that I then processed into fly tying materials that I use. I do this with all of my materials. I asked Matt not to mention this stuff because I didn't want any other fly tyers to feel like they needed to put in as much effort as I do. It's just the way I like to do things. Besides, my humble and welcoming southern persona is really just a cover that I use to trick naive tattoo subjects into my private studio before I tattoo them to death through hours of relentless, brutal pain. You see, there isn't a person on this earth that cares about tattooed freaks, so nobody ever comes looking for them. They are the perfect victim. I'm not sure why I use this podcast with a very small niche audience to make my murderous confession, but here we are. I am Drew Wilson, the real person that makes all the cool fish art, and not this host's stupid friend that helps him make up ridiculous stories. Thank you for not calling the police.
Where he's just like, well, I'm somewhat of an expert on this. You're talking about fly tying, and I'm telling you I don't really tie flies, but it's like, let me ask you a fly tying question. Well, I'm pretty much an expert.
I wasn't sure. If you tied, and it didn't really matter to me. I'm just trying to meet cool people in fly tying adjacent, when it comes to it, somewhere in the world. And, you fit that bill, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Well, thank you.
I can't wait to put this episode together. Ideas have been running through my head, this for the last hour here, and it's going to be cool. I haven't done anything on your neck of the woods, your part of the country yet.
We've got big fish here.
Yeah, you got a whole bunch of cool stuff happening.
Yeah, we put out a world record brown trout that was the longest running world record brown trout. I think it was 40 pounds, 9 ounces.
That's a big brown trout. Yeah.
River fish, not a lake run fish, not a fish that lives below a salmon farm, resident in the river fish.
Wow. I'll look it up. Include a link to this one for you.
Yeah. Rip Collins was the name of the guy, a Little Red River. I've gotten the most of my 30-inch trout have come out of the Little Red River. It's very special. It's hard to fish unless, you're lucky or you're fishing in spawning season, which is the most common thing for that place. But it's special. The White River is pretty iconic. If you're familiar with the White, it's got massive browns in it. It has everything though. We're the most eastern cutthroat you can catch are in the White and the North Fork. So in the United States, we're the furthest east cutthroat you can get. We got a lot of special stuff, as well as like the warm water stuff here is no one knows about it. You know, everybody thinks of Arkansas. They think of our certain trout rivers. Like there's 60-pound striper 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And there's giant alligator gar. We've got such awesome combos here.
Sweet. Man, it's one of the few states I haven't been to. So if I make it out there, I'm gonna hit you up and we're gonna go fishing, man.
So I've got my camper because we lived on the road, and the camper, I've got it. It's sitting in my garage, and we use it as a guest house. So come stay.
Yeah, man.
Just tell me what days you want to come. I'll mark them off. I'll pick you up at the airport. All you got to do is get to Arkansas. I'll handle everything else.
Don't tempt me, babe.
I say this to people all the time, and people started taking me up on it finally. And so, like, at least once a month, I'm hosting a stranger for 5 days that I pick up at the airport.
Cool, man.
Like, yeah. Please come.
I will. Thank you for wasting some time with me tonight, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. It's good hanging out.
I'm going to hit the stop button, but hang on, because I want to say goodbye and thanks again. Off the record.
All right.
All right, bye. Drew doesn't know it yet, but this whole episode has been one long audition tape for me to be a future guest on Fishing with Tattoos. I really hope it worked. I want to get a cool tattoo to pair with a great fishing story with my favorite fish tattoo artist. Maybe we'll go out to hunt one of the many Arkansas cryptids together and get tattoos of the beasts that we don't find. Or maybe we'll stay up all night waiting for the Dover lights to blow our minds. Arkansas has a bunch of hilariously named cryptids, and I didn't even have time to pay them all the respect that they're due. Researching those was my second favorite part of this episode, next to meeting Drew. Besides for the local monsters I told you about before the interview, there's also the Heber Springs water panther, which is said to be a bizarre hybrid of a Bigfoot and a puma. From what I understand, through the research that I've done on the subject, the local Bigfoot population have integrated their once secretive love affairs with these big cats into their culture at this point, which has led to more frequent sightings of the water panthers. Now, no one has managed to document their sordid acts on camera yet, but most locals have heard what they believe to be the beasts making love in the woods. I'll let you be the judge of this field audio recorded near the shoreline in Lake Dardanelle State Park in early 2001. Don't let that audio be confused with another local cryptid known as the Ozark Howler. The howler's cries are much more terrifying, and there's no way it could be confused with two innocent animals having sex with each other. This is the howler, for example. The last Arkansas cryptid I'll mention before I put a bow on this episode is the Fouke Monster, otherwise known as the Boggy Creek Monster or the Swamp Stalker. Those names together all sound like the bill for a sludge metal show, but they're all referring to the same terrifying legend. This monster is reported to be ape-like, similar to the Bigfoots that are constantly sexually harassing the pumas of the area, but the Fouke Monster is way less horny. In fact, after years of terrifying locals for no reason, the Fouke Monster actually just joined the local workforce. It went on to successfully own and operate an Applebee's franchise because it felt bad about all the horrors it had created in the past.
Nothing is top America's #1 sirloin steak.
Give me the Applebee's house sirloin.
House sirloin, please. Except our new toppings.
Whoa.
Stop. You think you can top #1?
Yeah, with aged Parmesan and melted mozzarella.
Smothered.
Hot. Chopped fresh basil, garlic, and ripe tomatoes.
Ooh, fresh.
Or coated in cracked peppers and spices with a creamy peppercorn sauce.
Zesty. Spicy.
America's #1 sirloin steak. 3 new ways for a limited time.
Gotta try an Applebee's sirloin topper.
Right now,
You belong at Applebee's.
That location had a long run as one of the higher performing franchises in the state, and the Monster was even said to be an excellent employer according to several previous employees. Unfortunately, the success was short-lived because the health department found that this particular Applebee's had been serving muskrat meat, which Applebee's absolutely allows, but it must be noted on the menu because some people are allergic and they didn't have the updated menus, so they got shut down after only 2 years in business. I guess I'm going to end the show right there. Yep, that's it. Thanks for listening. I'll be back again in a couple weeks. But before I go, I'm going to plug in some info about 2 organizations that I feel are making positive impacts on the fishing community that I care about so much. I'm trying to learn to take better care of my mental health, and it's not fun or easy. If you need help, don't be a dummy. Reach out to your family or friends or these folks. Project Healing Waters brings a high-quality, full-spectrum fly fishing program to an ever-expanding number of veterans in need at over 200 locations nationwide. Project Healing Waters programs meet regularly throughout the year with volunteers teaching the basics and advanced techniques while building long-term relationships. It's much more than a one-time fly fishing trip. The program provides basic fly fishing, fly casting, fly tying, and rod building classes for participants whose skills range from beginners who have never fished before to those with prior fly fishing and tying experience. All fly fishing and tying equipment is provided to the participants at no cost. Fishing trips, both one-day and multi-day, are also provided free of charge to participants. Visit projecthealingwaters.org to learn more. Fishing the Good Fight is breaking down walls, smashing taboos, and building community. They believe that experiences in nature are an important part of caring for one's mental health. Less than 20% of men struggling with mental illness and or substance abuse are receiving professional support. The combination of a healthy therapeutic outlet, talk therapy, and a strong community will lead to mental well-being. Men face specific challenges when it comes to addressing mental health issues. According to Mental Health America, 6 million men living in the U.S. suffer from depression. In a National Center for Health Statistics studies, nearly 1 in 10 men reported experiencing some form of depression, but less than half sought treatment. 70% of all people who die by suicide are men. That's from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Men are often reluctant to seek help, particularly for depression, and are far less likely to access professional mental health services than women. Men make up less than 25% of people treated for depression and or substance abuse. For a lot of men, Fishing the Good Fight program, such as a retreat, is the first time they've opened up about the struggles they faced, and 100% of men who attended a recent retreat indicated that they would seek professional help after the treatment. If you've ever wondered about your own mental health and wanted to improve your quality of life, Fishing the Good Fight can provide the tools, resources, and support to guide you along your wellness journey. FishingTheGoodFight.org has more information.
This episode of the Secret Society of Fly Tyers is brought to you by the Southwest Wyoming Real Estate Buyers Facebook group. Do you live in Southwest Wyoming? Do you want to live in Southwest Wyoming? If you answered yes to one and or both of these questions, boy, have I got a Facebook group that you need to know about. Our Facebook group, the Southwest Wyoming Real Estate Buyers Facebook group, has over 25 members who are extremely knowledgeable about property for sale in Southwest Wyoming. This land is priced to sell and it's going fast. Stake your claim on a beautiful bit of acreage in the high desert today. You won't regret it. The first step is to join our Facebook group. Do it. Join it. Join us. Learn with us. Buy cheap land and collect lizard bones with us. This episode of the Secret Society of Fly Tyers is brought to you by Applebee's, the only restaurant with a bug in the name. That's a pretty bold move if you ask me. A lot of people are scared of bees. A lot of people are allergic to bees. But does Applebee's care? No, not even a little bit. They put the word bees right in the name. Their delicious wet food is so good that they know that you idiots will still go there on a Thursday night to get your dripping wet quesadillas and waterlogged onion rings or whatever they sell. They could throw a handful of killer bees right in your face when you walk in and it wouldn't hurt their business. They know you crave their wet slop. They know you can't live without it. So go to Applebee's now, you filthy pig. Go there and eat your overpriced slop and thank them for the opportunity. You make me sick. F*** you. Please note that this is not a real advertisement, and the company, brand, entity, or product mentioned in the preceding ad in no way endorses, agrees with, or knows about this podcast.